Do it.
Good morning and welcome to the Mike Graham Show. I'm Mike Graham and this, of course, is the Mike Graham Show. It's 7:01 and 46 seconds, according to that clock on my right. The clock behind me, 50, no, I've got it wrong. 51 to 2. I mean, you just get, the thing about time is that it just keeps going and it changes with literally every single second it goes up. 7:02, I'm sorry, we're slightly late because we were coming up with some names for Keir Starmer if he was a horse. And I know that might sound mad to you, but it is Grand National Weekend, and so all the papers are full of ways to bet, things to bet on, and so we've got some very good names for you, which we're going to put up as a poll very shortly. We've got lots to talk about this morning because not only are we still at peace, there is no war going on in the Middle East as far as we can see. Apparently we couldn't use Wrexham Harmer. That was a horse name that we wanted to put in, but it was overruled by the Taste and Decency Committee here at the Mike Graham Show. So sorry, we won't be putting that one in the poll. Anyway, listen, it doesn't matter because there's loads of other names that you could call Keir Starmer if he was a horse. I'd send him to the glue factory, frankly, if it was me. He's done an interview with Robert Peston from ITV, and I've spent, many of you will have seen, all of this week, I've spent a great deal of time actually denuding and diminishing the press and the media and giving them a hard time for being completely and utterly useless, for not asking the right questions, for not pressing politicians on what we should be able to find out. What are you laughing at?
I'll put it up now. Hold on.
All right. Pooch is having a great time today. Red button. That's great. That's brilliant.
When that goes in the poll, I'll show it.
Let's put it in the poll. Then change the poll immediately. That has got to go in. It's fantastic. Yeah, 25 to 1 on, that one. Anyway, no, listen. So we've had a fantastic week. It's been incredible. As ever, you guys have catapulted us into the stratosphere. Never mind the old Artemis going around the Earth at 25,000 miles an hour. We've got up to nearly 152,000 subscribers. We've got very close now to 15. What is it? Yeah, I think it's 15 million views any second now. Kelvin MacKenzie's coming in later on. We're going to speak to Linda Duberley. We've got Catherine Blakelock on. Christian Drogan's here. The day after 4 people died in the Channel trying to get here, we're being told there's going to be some massive influx of migrants coming in on small boats over the course of the next few weeks. Sunil Sharma as well, and also Bishop Kai Dewar, who is of course our adopted bishop and leader of men and women and even non-binary individuals, because basically his sermon last week was so popular that nearly broke the internet. So we're going to ask him to do a sermon every week for us, which I think is going to be good. Also this weekend, I'm going to do for the first time my weekend wind-up. So I want you to look out for that. We're going to put that out on YouTube probably on Sunday lunchtime-ish or something like that. It might involve Ziggy, might not. Ziggy's very, very happy. I had a very weird thing happen to me yesterday after we finished the show. We ended up filming Plank of the Week, Plonk of the Week. William Clouston stayed on for that. Plank of the Week, of course, tonight at 7 o'clock. Plonk of the Week tomorrow at 7. And I was really looking forward to going home and having some chicken. I know that sounds a bit weird, but it's not meant to. My son decided he was due to spend the evening at my place, and in the end he didn't because he was somewhere else. So I'd made this really nice chicken casserole, right, which I thought would be something to really look forward to eating. And I got home, I was a bit peckish, and sort of heated it up, boiled it up again, put some pasta in it. So I thought, what should I do with it? And it was chicken thighs, which I'm quite partial to, and I cooked it and I warmed it all up and I put it in the bowl and I started eating it and I thought, this isn't very good. It's just not very good. I was quite disappointed, and I think I screwed up because I think the night before when I was cooking it, just before I sort of put it into the fridge to soak, and then I didn't put it in the fridge to soak anyway, I forgot to do it. I sprayed a load of balsamic vinegar into it because I thought that would give it a kind of piquancy, if you don't mind. And well, I think it did, but it ruined it, I think. Anyway, so I've now got all this chicken. I don't know what to do with it. Pooch said give it to Ziggy, but I think it's a bit too rich for him.
Here we go, Mike.
So I don't know. What's your best chicken-based story? You can tell it's Friday. Because we've both, actually, you know what, I think it's right to say, Pooch and I both came in today, we're both a bit sort of bemused. Yeah. Not particularly in a bad way, just a bit sort of, kind of, wow, That's been another amazing week. You know, strap yourselves down. Everything started going wrong. The screens switched themselves off. The lights were flashing, and we just went, "What's happening?" But it's great. You know, this is why we love what we do, because, as I said, I've said it all week. You know, we are building something here which we're very proud of, and which we are really, really happy that you're coming along with us on. And look at it, 7 minutes past 7. We haven't done any news yet.
Well, let's get Linda in.
It's you know, let's get Linda Duberley on, shall we? Because Linda's here with us. She's going to be helping us with what's in the paper. Linda, I'm terribly sorry. I was getting quite carried away there, just for sort of general ranting and raving. Have you got a chicken-based story to tell us?
Do you know what, though? I would bin the balsamic vinegar. I think that's an overused ingredient.
Do you?
My preference, and I love a chicken thigh.
Yeah.
My preference is olive oil, lemon juice, and chopped up rosemary.
Oh, that sounds good.
Cannot beat it.
That sounds really good. Well, the thing is, I think until the balsamic vinegar incident, it was all going pretty well. And I think I think it's almost like, you know, you spend 2 hours cooking a casserole and then you throw some crap in it and ruin it. And that's, I think, what I've done. It's terrible, shocking.
Oh, yeah, you are supposed to put the balsamic vinegar in at the beginning.
Are
Maybe
you?
that's the problem. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it might have been quite late at night, and I was feeling a bit sort of, creative, and I thought, I know, this will make it different. And yeah, anyway, do you know what I did? I ended up, I ordered the Chinese, basically, and ate that, which was far better. It was very good. Really enjoyed it.
Friday, we can have fish and chips tonight.
I can have fish and chips tonight. Yeah, I'm not sure what I've got tonight. I've got to go to Sussex tonight and see the dog. But I'm not going to give him the chicken. I don't think I think even he would reject it. You know, and he'll eat anything. But even he would go, "This is crap. Sorry, Dad." Anyway, listen. Very good morning to you. Welcome to Friday, the 10th of April. I am absolutely and utterly bewildered, shall we say, by Keir Starmer's interview with Robert Peston. I don't know whether you were able to watch it last night, but Robert Peston, one of the world's worst journalists, has done an interview with Keir Starmer, right? And you can imagine at ITV, they're all singing their praises, going, "Oh, isn't it great? We've got an interview with the Prime Minister." I watched it last night, and he literally doesn't ask him anything. He doesn't ask him where Morgan McSweeney's phone is. He doesn't ask him why he thinks he's ruined a special relationship after sort of several hundred years of a really good, situation that we've had with the Americans. Doesn't really ask him much about the Russian situation. Doesn't ask him about the state of the economy or why, you know, him and his cohorts in the cabinet are driving Britain over a cliff. It's just ridiculous. I mean, have you seen it?
I've seen bits of it, and what I can't understand is fundamentally why he doesn't ask Keir Starmer. Why do you insist on talking without saying anything?
Yeah.
Because for me, that's the overarching point.
Yes.
Keir Starmer is full of these glib phrases, marketing speak, cut and paste phrases that mean absolutely nothing.
Right.
He is matched only by John Healey, who managed to do exactly the same thing in the press conference he gave, and Yvette Cooper.
Oh my God!
I mean, her language is not even bizarre. To call it bizarre would be to give it some sort of credence.
Yes, a label. Yeah,
a label. It's just so bland. The problem is, and this isn't just a Labour thing. I think that, in fact, I know that MPs, and more importantly, people who put themselves forward for selection, are actually coached in how to talk without saying anything.
Yes.
When I was actually on the list of candidates for the Conservative Party for about 5 years.
Oh, yeah.
And I met Eleanor Lang and the late, and some people say great, Cheryl Gillam. And I was told my main problem was I tried too hard to answer the question.
Yes.
Which obviously I can't help, because if you're a journalist, you might not have to answer questions, although I do these days, but you certainly now have to ask them.
Yeah.
So I think that we are hoist by our own petard, if you like. We now have a generation of politicians that actually just make noise. And frankly, we are getting to the point where this simply isn't good enough for the public. Whatever you think of someone like Margaret Thatcher, she said what she meant and she meant what she said. She needed a bit of speech training, But she didn't need any help at all in articulating her thoughts.
No, not at all. But I mean, the trouble is that they all may sit around patting themselves on the back and saying, "Oh, the media training's gone terribly well, and I've managed to sit through yet another interview without saying anything." But the trouble is that the people of the country, the voting public, have seen through it all now, and now they don't believe a word that any of them say. So they don't take any notice of them, and they now hate every single one of them. And that's kind of where we are.
Yeah, and they're all taught in particular a technique known as bridging or pivoting, where traditionally, and I've done a lot of media training, traditionally you're taught obviously how to bridge from a difficult area into an area that you find easier. The problem with politicians now is that they don't bother bridging from anything to anything. They just ignore the question and start saying what they want to say. As I say, they are going to get a very rude awakening when we get to the period before the next general election.
Yeah, I think so. Well, I'll tell you what we'll do. Before we bore the pants off everybody by showing them the interview with Robert Peston, let's have a look at Nick Ferrari, one of my favourite people, interviewing Yvette Cooper yesterday. You'll know Nick of old. And again, all Nick does is ask a straightforward question. And look at what happens, because this is hilarious. Have a look.
I thought Sir Keir had said that these vessels would be seized. How many have been seized, and why was that allowed to happen?
I'm not going to comment on the detail of operations. What I can tell you is that we have given permission now for action to be taken against the Russian shadow fleet. Operational decisions then have to be taken in the right way by the military. But it is, there are indications of the way in which not just the Russian shadow fleet is operating, but also the way in which we have seen increased Russian threats, not just to the UK, but across Europe as well. We will be saying more about this shortly, but I would say I think this is a sign of the scale of volatility, the nature of the kinds of threats, the fact that the Cold War peace dividend is gone,
these are
and
empty
the
words.
way in which we need to respond.
Foreign Secretary, these are empty. I mean, these three vessels sailed through unchallenged. We've got no navy to deploy the Channel currently.
Well, one of the things that we're doing as part of our increased defence investment is renewing our frigates, and doing that alongside Norway, for example. And I've been to see some of the joint work between the UK and Norway. That is also about dealing with the threats from the Russian Northern Fleet, the threats to our Arctic security, and so on.
I mean, I'm sorry. I saw that yesterday and I thought, what on earth are you talking about? You know, he's actually asking a straightforward question. You haven't touched any of these ships. You said you would stop them going through the Channel. You haven't. Three of them have gone through untouched, unhindered, unfettered. And then she starts going on about Norway.
Yeah, this is a classic. This is exactly what I mean. And, you know, maybe I'll keep a copy of that, because the next time I have trouble sleeping, I just turn that on. It might actually help me more than the shipping forecast does.
It's true.
But
she talks about the High North like it's something out of the Lord of the Rings. I'm going, where's the High North? Where is that? I don't know of anywhere called the High North. What the hell is she talking about?
The Arctic.
You know.
Do know.
I mean, I do know, obviously, but I mean, the fact is, it's a ridiculous phrase.
It's because they pick up on these military terms, and they think that adds gravitas. But as you and I know, the very best papers in Fleet Street, when Fleet Street was in Fleet Street, are those papers that make complex subjects accessible to most people.
Exactly.
And that's the point. Now, I mean, what I want to know is, when she touched upon frigates, does she know how many frigates the Royal Navy has? Because John Healey didn't when Nick Ferrari interviewed him last week.
Well, this I would suggest, if she doesn't know how many frigates there are, don't ask the Defence Secretary, because he doesn't know either.
That's right. He didn't know.
All we do know is HMS Dragon, which was kind of dragged out of the cobwebs of the garage down in Portsmouth, was taken off, anchor dropped somewhere off the coast of the Scilly Isles, then driven to somewhere near Cyprus, and now it's knackered again, so it's got to go back into the workshop to be fixed. I mean, it's pathetic, isn't it?
It's embarrassing. And you know, I feel sorry actually for the naval contingent, because, you know, they can't possibly want all this faulty equipment, or equipment that hasn't been properly maintained or overhauled. They probably like some new ships. They probably like some new submarines. But frankly, it's not just this government. It is a previous government as well, has completely hollowed out our armed forces. And now we are where we are.
Sorry.
You know,
Yeah, no, I know. Sorry,
Hey,
Pooch was just talking to me off stage there about balsamic vinegar. Here we go. Hello, Yvette. I'll have the word salad, please, with the balsamic vinegar. No thanks, wouldn't want to ruin it. Yeah, this is going to become a joke now, isn't it? The balsamic vinegar. You know, leave the balsamic vinegar alone. How about this, right? We've got the Grand National coming up this weekend, so we've got some horse names. If Keir Starmer was a horse, frankly, I'd have him put down, but that's another story. It says here, two-tier trotter as a possible name, Sir Flip Flop, Never Hear Keir, or Red Bum. I know which one I'm picking. What do you think?
I don't know. What about Sure Gone?
Sure God is good. I like that a lot. Yeah. Very good. Red
here.
Bum's coming in number one at the moment, 49%.
Red Bum is the best so far.
Yeah, 7-2 on. There we are, and that's just a party around at Downing Street. But yeah, let's have a look. All right, so we're going to do it. We have to brace ourselves. Pooch it was urging me not to do this because he hates Starmer so much. He's like, I'm not sure I can even watch him being interviewed by anyone. But Robert Peston, the world's most pompous journalist, right? And as I say, I've been saying this all week that the kind of Her Majesty's or His Majesty's press has now fallen so far that they don't really care about asking questions that are important. All they care about is getting on the plane, getting into the Downing Street, Rose Garden for the party in the summer, getting the Christmas party invite, getting to go to wherever it is Starmer decides to go on any given day. And Peston, I watched, he doesn't ask him anything of any worth at all. And we've got a load of different clips. Just play whichever one you like.
We need an alert first.
Eh?
We need an alert.
Oh, we need an alert. Yeah, here's the Starmer. Oh my God. Right, let's go.
Now, the Iranians say that Israel's continued attacks on Lebanon are a breach of the understanding between America and Iran that led to this cessation of hostilities. Is it a breach?
Well, it's hard to say whether it's a breach when we haven't all got access to all the details of the ceasefire. But look, let's be really clear about it. They're wrong. So
Israel is wrong to be attacking in Lebanon now?
Yes, that shouldn't be happening. That should stop. That's my strong view. And therefore, the question isn't a technical one of whether it's a breach of the agreement or not. The one is actually a matter of principle, as far as I'm concerned. In a sense, my argument would be it should be included in the ceasefire, and that's an important part of the overall approach.
Sorry. I mean, first of all, it's a stupid question asked in a very pompous manner. It's a stupid answer. Nobody cares what Starmer thinks. Do you think Benjamin Netanyahu's sitting there going, Keir Starmer's not sure if it's a breach of international law? Well, who cares what he thinks?
I'll tell you what I find baffling as well is that I was actually speaking to a former high-level advisor to strategic communications at NATO yesterday.
Wow!
And we were talking about fleet. Someone I
knew you when you just used to write news stories. Now you're talking to NATO High Command.
I make it my business to get inside the tent.
Excellent.
Anyway, I said, what should happen here? And he said, we should board the Russian vessels. I said, what do you mean? Like, wow. And he said, yeah, we should board the Russian vessels.
Yes.
I now discover, first thing this morning when I get up and I check my phone, that this has all been stopped by, guess who? Apparently, Lord Hermer.
Oh, of course. I mean, he's a complete waste of space, isn't he, this guy? He's never been elected, right? But he sits on top of what is the largest kind of, legal entity in the country, which is he's the boss of all legal activity, if you like, as the Attorney General. And he gets to call the shots on everything.
It's crazy. I mean, we know that those Russian vessels were in breach of everything they'd agreed before. They're down there snooping around, looking at our cables, which carry all our vital information. They're slowly cruising through the channel. They probably come back out now again. And we are not supposed to board them. That is ridiculous. You have to ask yourself, what is the point in having a Royal Navy if it cannot defend the realm?
Well, I mean, I don't even think we can call it the Royal Navy anymore because, I mean, having one ship, I'm told you have to call it a ship, not a boat, doesn't really count as a navy, does it? It's a bit like having one car and saying, oh, yeah, I run a fleet of taxis. No, you don't. You've got one car. It's not a fleet of taxis, it's one car. We've got one boat.
I think we're probably only just above the Iranian Navy right now, which...
Yeah, most of this is at the bottom of the Gulf of Oman, I think, isn't it?
Exactly.
I mean, it is extraordinary. I think have we got any more clips we can have a look at?
Yeah,
got another one?
Another horse name.
I've got another Lord Hemorrhoid, or Herberoid. I like it, very clever. Well done. And that's from J.A. Yeah, let's have another clip from Peston's piss poor interview, because that's what I'm calling it.
Now, the Iranians say that Israel's continued attacks on Lebanon are a breach.
Whether there is such a thing as an international leaders WhatsApp group.
Well, there are plenty of WhatsApp groups of different groups of leaders. I'm not a WhatsApp fan. I have to
You're not?
No, because all that happens is you just get lots and lots of discussion on WhatsApp. But we have set them up for various groupings, particularly about things like Ukraine, etc. So we can all be in touch with one another.
So that is how conversation between leaders goes on these days.
A lot of it is face-to-face, a lot of it is on the phone. And
Yeah.
I believe you have to build those relationships.
Yeah, of course.
And I think that they need to be done predominantly face-to-face. You need to be able to pick up the phone and know instinctively where somebody's going to be. I think
It's an improper question, therefore. Which of the leaders loves WhatsApp most? Come on, reveal!
I think that, I would say, and I think you'd be pleased with this, Alex Stubb in Finland is...
Sorry.
No, we needed that.
Sorry, I mean, this guy, right, Peston, gets an opportunity to question the man who's ruining Britain, the man who is completely driving the whole country over a cliff. And one, he takes him onto a beach. I mean, you and I have been around long enough to know if you want to do an interview with somebody, it's probably best not to do it in the bloody wind, right? Because you can't hear anything, one. But also, how cringe is it, right, when he's going, oh, come on, tell us who's the best leader for WhatsApps. Well, what about Morgan McSweeney's bloody WhatsApps? You know, what about Morgan McSweeney's phone? Well, you know, why don't you ask him that? You didn't ask him about Morgan McSweeney's phone. You're not interested, right? And it's all about this cozying up and, you know, going to dinner parties together and being mates and, you know, oh, you know, my girlfriend, you know, who I married after my wife died of cancer, you know, oh, let's all talk about that. It's awful. It's just horrendous. Awful. Crap.
I suppose it's all part of that North London set, isn't it?
Yeah, it
really?
is. It is. I'll pop round for tea, shall I? Yeah, all right then.
Yeah, it's all a bit cosy when the rest of the country is actually suffering quite greatly now.
Yeah.
You've got farmers
Everyone
suffering, you've got pensioners suffering,
Yeah.
you've got in particular young people suffering because, you know, when you and I were in Fleet Street and you used to get, you know, shifts and summer relief contracts and you got your foot in the door and you could build a career, and that all those opportunities also happened in other areas. They don't happen for kids now.
No.
They can't find jobs. They've got the constant encroachment of AI and people cutting back all the time, no economic momentum to fund any expansion. And these problems are very significant. And yet we do absolutely the square root of nothing to make a difference. That's what Sir Keir Starmer should be questioned about. He's had over a year in office. It's no good saying this is because of the 14 years that went before us anymore. He has to start coming up with some policies and not these fluffy sound bites he injects into interviews that just serve to irritate people.
Exactly. And I mean, again, as I said, you know, to have an opportunity to question him, I mean, I'd like to get an interview with him and I know exactly what I'd ask him. And in fact, we might as well ask the audience, what would you ask Starmer if you actually had a chance to ask him one question? Because Peston doesn't ask him one question that anyone in the country is interested in him asking. Why do I care that, you know, the Finnish Prime Minister is, you know, the one that uses his WhatsApp the most? Who gives a damn, you know?
Is the Finnish minister is the one that gets on particularly well with Donald Trump, I think.
Oh, is he?
I mean,
yeah,
I think so.
And
Yeah.
Starmer apparently now, he's also claimed in this interview that he's fed up with Donald Trump. Oh, really? Well, I bet he wouldn't say that to his face. Last time I saw him with Trump, he was going, oh, I've got this letter for you from the king, like Uriah Heep. I mean, that was awful, wasn't it? Dreadful.
Unctuous. That's the word my mother would use. Unctuous.
Yes.
I mean,
very good.
His body language is so oily, I guess.
Yeah, it is.
with Trump. He's not at all convincing when he's with Trump. I mean, maybe he's along with Mark Rutte. Everyone goes on and on about Mark Rutte being the Trump whisperer. I mean, is it okay to call Trump daddy? It isn't, is it?
I wouldn't really, unless Melania might. I don't know.
Yeah, maybe.
I mean, she's in the papers this morning saying that she's not Epstein's victim. I think we've got a little clip of her. She's actually been great. I think Melania is great. Have a look at this.
With the disgraceful Jeffrey Epstein need to end today. The individuals lying about me are devoid of ethical standards, humility, and respect. I do not object to their ignorance, but rather I reject their mean-spirited attempts to defame my reputation. I never been friends with Epstein. Donald and I were invited to the same parties as Epstein from time to time, since overlapping in social circles is common in New York City and Palm Beach. To be clear, I never had a relationship with Epstein or his accomplice, Maxwell. My email reply to Maxwell cannot be categorized as anything more than casual correspondence. My polite reply to her email doesn't amount to anything more than a trivial note. I am not Epstein's victim. Epstein did not introduce me to Donald Trump. I met my husband by chance at a New York City party in 1998. This initial encounter with my husband is documented in a detail in my book, Melania.
Good for her, frankly. I mean, I'm sick to death of people picking on Melania. I think she's been brilliant. And also, the funny thing is that in the first term, people were like, oh, she hates him. You can tell, they're walking down the steps of the plane. She knocks his hand away. She doesn't want to hold his hand and all of that. Now, she's absolutely loving it. And we saw her last week laughing, joking around when he had the sword. And then we saw her with the Easter Bunny, which was one of the most hilarious clips I think I've ever seen of Trump threatening to obliterate Iran with the Easter Bunny on his left side, going, So, I mean, the idea that Starmer is fed up with Trump is ridiculous, isn't it?
Well, even if he is, it's completely irrelevant.
Yeah.
And I must say with Melania, I really like her.
I do, yeah, totally.
Yeah, I think she's absolutely straightforward. I loved that press conference she gave yesterday. I think that's a Christian Dior jacket. No change out of $3,000 there, and 2 for the skirt as well.
Yeah.
She knows how to dress. She speaks 4 languages. She's pretty supportive.
I would call her the most well-dressed woman in the public eye.
She is the best.
She looks great.
Yeah, the best dressed first lady since Jackie Kennedy,
Yeah,
without
definitely.
a shadow of a doubt.
Yeah.
Michelle Obama, a bit too much Narciso Rodriguez for my liking. You can tell
Yeah.
I originally went under College of Fashion.
Well, she had
but
to
there-
go to the outside shop as well because she was a bit too tall for most of the stuff that you buy in a regular shop.
Yeah, she is tall, but that helps actually with clothes. But to get back to the Trump relationship, at least Melania just pushed his hand away. She didn't slap him around the face the way Brigitte Macron. I mean, that was hilarious.
So that was the other great one with Trump earlier this week, where he goes, Emmanuel Macron, his wife treats him very badly. It's brilliant. He's so indiscreet. I love it. Absolutely fantastic.
The thing, Mike, is that's really cut through. Have you seen those videos with the little babies? One plays.
Yes.
The boy plays Trump and the girl plays Melania. They are so hilarious.
They are funny. Yeah.
Particularly the Melania one, that I now can't look at them of any serious clip without falling about laughing because they come into my mind's eye and I think, well, there we are.
Yeah.
Very, very funny.
I know, absolutely. We've had so much fun. We haven't really had time to do any other stories, but there aren't that many other stories around, apart from the fact that we're apparently going to get a another invasion of migrants this summer because the weather's going to be nice for a while, and unfortunately 4 of them died in the Channel yesterday. As I say, it's Grand National weekend. Apparently, Peter Mandelson's going to be fined for peeing in public, but the local council apparently haven't been able to enforce the penalty fine because they don't know where he lives. Well, anybody can tell them. It's over there where all the photographers are,
But anyway, even if you find out where he lives, Lord Herman can always step in and stop everything.
Herman can do all that, yeah, absolutely. Linda, great to see you. Thank you very much. Have you got any tips for the Grand National, by the way?
Oh, I don't know. I always watch. It's a big iconic thing, isn't it, for the great British public? But no, I'm not a betting woman, actually.
Oh, okay, all right. Well, I'm gonna go through the old suite and see if we can come up with a name of something. But anyway, listen, great to see you. Have a lovely weekend. And Kelvin MacKenzie's now here. I should call substitute for you, I know. But listen, we haven't got much money, so we can do what we can.
I have to pay to get on there.
We'll be back. Anyway, I'll see you soon. Coming up, let's get some news. Is Edward Hughes back, by the way?
Well, you're going to find out.
Is he back? Let's have a look. The only other story I've got for you about Neil Armstrong is that he once told me to F off. One of the many people who's told me to F off in my journalistic career. And it was just after the space shuttle disaster had happened. And I was working for the Today newspaper, which was just about to launch, but hadn't quite launched yet. And I was called by the news desk and they said, can you get hold of one of the people that walked on the moon? Because it's the sort of thing you get asked by Fleet Street news desks, Oh, yeah, of course, no problem at all. Can you just get one of the guys that walks on and get him to say something about it? I was like, all right. So I managed to track him down to some university in Illinois. And in those days, you just rang people up, And so I rang up the University of Illinois and I said, oh, hello, could you put me through to Professor Neil Armstrong, please? And they did. And then he picks up the phone, hello. And I said, hi, is that Neil Armstrong? Yes. Is that the Neil Armstrong that walks on the moon? Yes. I said, just calling from a newspaper in England called Today. Just wondered if you had any thoughts about what's just happened, terrible tragedy. The Space Shuttle Challenger just exploded on launch. Everybody's dead. We'd love to hear your thoughts on how dangerous it is to go into space. He said, look, I don't really want to talk about it. I just don't. And we were trained in those days. You just keep asking the question. And I said, yeah, I understand that, but surely you must have something to say. I mean, you must have felt that something.
Oh.
No, it cuts off before the end.
No, sorry, I'm having a mare today.
What are you doing?
I'm having a...
Have you not had any sleep? Crikey. Anyway, never mind. Anyway, the story goes at the end, he just gets to the point where he goes, would you just F off?
Should we go back to it?
Can we go back? Can you got it?
Yeah.
The only other story I've got for you about Neil Armstrong is that he once told me to Challenger just exploded on launch. Everybody's dead. We'd love to hear your thoughts on how dangerous it is to go into space. He said, look, I don't really want to talk about it. I just don't. And we were trained in those days. You just keep asking the question. And I said, yeah, I understand that, but surely you must have something to say. I mean, you must have felt at some point in fear of your own life. And blah, blah, blah. Anyway, eventually, after about 4 or 5 times, I tried to. He just said, would you just fuck off and put the phone down?
Did
so
the
I was
newspaper print that?
quite pleased with that, really.
Did the newspaper print it or not?
No. They tragically had no sense of humour about it. They said, oh, so you didn't get a quote then? I was like, no, I didn't. Sorry.
Good morning. The HER decision came back. The votes were cast, and it can only mean one thing. It's me, Edward Hughes, with your news. Britain's cracking on as usual. Total knob Keir Starmers jetting off to the Gulf to help reopen the Strait of Hormuz. Because nothing says strong leadership like begging foreign powers not to mess with our petrol prices while telling Israel to play nice. Meanwhile, junior doctors are on another glorious 6-day strike, proving the NHS is basically a very expensive picket line with waiting lists. Defense Secretary admits we've been frantically tracking Russian spy submarines, sniffing around our undersea cables. Truly, a country firing on all cylinders. God save the... whatever this is. Please remember to like and subscribe. Latest Tigers, P.S.
Yeah, I think it's now time. I think Kelvin MacKenzie's here. Very good morning to you, Kelvin.
Hi there.
Happy Friday. Now it's time, I think, to show Kelvin the poll because Grand National's coming up today.
Yeah.
Which I've got lots of questions for you on actually,
Okay.
because I want to know whether you think that the paper's doing it the way they do it still is the thing. But we've got a poll going. If Keir Starmer was a horse, right?
Yeah.
What would he be called?
Okay,
Let's have a look.
Coming on screen.
Coming on screen.
There you go.
So a 2-tier trotter. It's a flip-flop, Never Hear Kia, or my personal favourite, Red Bum.
Yeah, no, Red Bum. No, Red Bum's good. I think I told you once, didn't I? In the Sun, we had for some reason the Sun didn't seem to like Janet Street Porter very much, right? And we ran a thing side by side, which was a picture of Janet Street Porter and a picture of Red Rum, and we asked which one was the more attractive. And of course, the Sun readers got it in a heartbeat, and they voted 98-2 in favour of Red Rum, and that's the kind of people we like, and I suspect those are the kind of people which are watching your great show. I love that shot. I love that foreshot, by the way, Pooch. The foreshot, yeah. Now do you know what?
That looks better,
you do
doesn't
it as a 3-shot. You do it as a 3-shot in America. Yeah. That is the dominant way of reaching multiple views.
Well, because we've had this you and I've had this conversation about the way that this is all set up, because we did it this way because we sort of had to at the beginning. Yeah. But we worked out that Plank of the Week actually works a lot better with 4 people in boxes on a screen instead of them all being here.
Absolutely, man. Absolutely, and the people that matter are obviously the viewers, and I suspect they like it as well. It's there's a changing world out there.
Yeah, well, Piers Morgan does it as well. I mean, he sometimes has as many as 5 or 6 as across, which is a bit much if there's like 6 of them.
Yes, I think that Question Time failed. Yeah. Not failed, but after all, it's the only show of its kind, so it's a monopoly.
It still failed.
It failed because it went to 5.
Yeah.
And I just think trying to accommodate all kinds of people's thought processes is just damn impossible.
But you know the problem with regular TV, and I've said this for years, and even Question Time, when I used to, occasionally get invited onto Good Morning Britain, and, they'd ring you up on a sort of 3 o'clock on the night before, speak to you for 45 minutes, what are you going to say about this, what are you going to say about that? You get in a car, it takes you halfway across London, it takes about an hour to get there, it takes about an hour to get back. You go on air for about a minute. You know, and you get to say about 3 sentences.
Yeah, exactly.
And it's pointless. It's like, why have you bothered bringing me here?
So the reproduction now, of course, the technologies of television have improved 1,001%. So why don't they just simply say, we'll come to you? Yeah. And to be honest, they've got the studio there anyway, so they've got the look.
But but I'll tell you what they've also got is they've got the unions, right? Because they did that. Because after a while I stopped doing it. I said, look, I'll tell you what, you want me on, you come to news, right? I'll go there, you can come in. And they would turn up, mob-handed, so there'd be a cameraman and a sound man. So 2 guys would come, and I once was left waiting for I think half an hour. Then they said, "Oh, we're sorry, we're not going to come to you." I went, "All right." They came back the next day. They got paid twice for coming to do me and it was no more than 90 seconds in the end when it was off. It was a waste of time.
So like everything,
and money,
everything else, the world's changing. Yeah, and of course the other truth about the matter is that your audience multiplies by. I saw some numbers the other day by about 7 or 8. Over the time that you're not live, right? People want to catch up. Yeah. People have got busy lives. They got kids. They got this. They got that. They got all the rest of it. They still like what you deliver. So they just go and see it through TikTok or Facebook or whatever they do. Yeah. Which is fantastic for everybody. Yeah. So more people see you. And it's easier for people's lives.
They used to call it, and when you were
on that basis, what am I doing here?
Yeah,
right. Totally.
Well, exactly. When you can mail it in, But this is the thing. When in the old days, you used to call it when you were running TalkSport an appointment to listen, right? Yeah. Hawksby and Jacobs, brilliant. All's on at 1 o'clock. People still love it. Still a good show. Yeah. But you don't have to listen to it at 1 o'clock anymore. No. You can listen to it later, or listen to the podcast.
Well, this is the whole basis.
Make your own appointment to listen.
Yeah, this is the whole basis of Netflix. Yeah. Right. When do you want to watch it? You want to watch it at 4 a.m? Jolly good. You want to watch it 4 p.m? Jolly good. You want to watch it at 9:30? Jolly good. I'm sure that there are peaks which are in line with the way people run their rather busy lives. Yeah. But television is there to be at your disposal, not at anybody else's. Yeah. And the other thing that I think you're going to see is I wonder what the point of the BBC having its own distribution channels, well, the ITV, why don't they stick the whole damn lot on YouTube?
Yeah.
Right?
Well, that's what they are doing. They're about to launch, I think, 50 different YouTube channels, the BBC, you know.
Yeah.
But they'll probably screw it up because there's nobody in there that understands the methodology of it. There's nobody in there that gets it. And so they will still, like a lot of people in newspapers, up until relatively recently, still were kind of, obsessed with the fact that, we're the most important people on the planet. Yeah. Well, not anymore, you're not. Sorry, nobody's buying The Sun because they want to see what their political advice is, No,
do you know what? My advice to Murdoch, who still basically runs an aspect of the company, i.e., this is what I want to see happen. Yeah. Honestly, quite rightly, they will say, yeah, okay, we'll do that. Whatever that is. Right. Right. Is to stop having a view on polling day.
Yeah.
Or if you do have a view on polling day, or the day before polling day, stick it somewhere in the back of the paper. Yeah. People know from the attitude of the printed word or of the news site where you're coming from. Yeah. You don't need to have all over the front page like The Sun did, say, right, The Sun, what a collection of numcops, and how out of date are Murdoch and his editors. Yeah. For instance, so the last election, right, July 84, what did they decide to do? They stuck all over their front page, time for a new manager. Yeah. Okay. And then got right behind Starmer. Right. Okay. Anybody who knew anything about this country knew that nobody was voting for Starmer. Right. They were all voting against the Conservatives, right? Yeah. So why would you so misunderstand your readers? So what happens today? Have you seen the poll today? So what does the poll today say? Poll today says that half of the people who voted Labour, right, want Starmer to go right now. Yeah. Right? So how incredible is that? So Starmer is now a massively hated figure, right? Even by people 2 years ago said fine.
Yeah, absolutely.
But the point I'm making is Murdoch is they're totally out of touch. Yeah. They're totally out of touch. Yeah. If they had got a front page saying the Tories have been a nightmare, don't vote for them. Right. Do whatever you favour. I would have said, well done, Rupert. Well done, your editors. Well done, your executives. Instead of that, they lumped straight in with this guy.
And at least prepare people for the fact that actually, if you do end up with somebody else other than the Tories, it might actually be worse.
As it's turned out
to be. I mean, today, this is interesting. Yeah. Big piece in the Mail. I mean, it's way back, so they're smart about that. 20 pages, 2021. Huge piece by Nigel Farage. The Labour leader believes in nothing except saving his own skin. That's why you must vote to get him out. That seems to me to tell me that they've got their finger on the pulse more so than anybody else.
Reform are going to have a staggering success. The Tories, I'm afraid, right? Yeah. So I am a unite the right person.
I know you are. Yeah,
okay,
you said that.
And I recognise that a lot of your viewers will hate me for it and all the rest of it. I'm a unite the right
it's
guy.
Not just that they hate you for, by the way, but that's okay.
That is true. That is true.
There's a lot of reasons.
Do you know the only people that love me?
Go on.
Divorce lawyers. They can't get enough of me. Honestly, I turn
Bring it
up
on. Oh, there's a big party going on down the road. Why is that? Kelvin's got married again. All the noise has turned up.
That's the alternate party. That's the one the legal association held. Yeah. So actually, the old idea of being all things to all people. We endorsed the Conservatives in '79. We endorsed Blair in this. We endorsed the Tories. Right.
Nobody cares.
Don't do it. It's commercially damaging, and you haven't got your finger on the pulse. No. Now, what you might be doing, right, and this would be interesting. News Corporation and others, right? What you might be doing is actually buttering your own toast, both sides. Yeah. I.e., is there a commercial advantage to me, as there was in the old days, by endorsing even a dud like Starmer, or will I actually pay a price, as people say, you were the people that endorsed Starmer, and look what you've done to me. You've destroyed my business, you've damaged my past.
Funny you say that, because I used to get a lot of that when I was at Talk. People would ring in and say, Well, I wouldn't worry about anybody from the Sun coming on because they were the ones that told us to vote for this dud
good point.
and this loser, and we did, and now look what's happened, you know, and so then they start blaming you.
Right. So here's the question for you then. Right. So you then go to your rather dim-witted management on talk radio, right? And you say, look, I am not entirely sure that these Sun people are helping my audience. They seem to be aggravating. Do you mind if we don't bother and we get on somebody else, like the Telegraph or something? We did. And and there'd be a long pause. There would be an intake of breath. There would be a and then that would be the end of that. Wouldn't it?
Well, I mean, I'd take it to another level. I once had a go at the Times for having this ridiculous clean air campaign on the front page, which they were running, and we were very, very strongly anti-climate change. You know, like don't believe a bloody word of it. Forget about Sadiq Khan and his crappy, you know, low
nut zero.
Yeah, nut zero as it's now known. And I got into terrible trouble. You can't be, you know, I'm sorry, what are you doing? I said, well, that's just crap, isn't it? Well, we don't believe in any of that. None of our listeners believe in any of that. You know, they're all driving around in diesel cars because Ed Miliband told them to. You know, they don't give a crap about the net zero.
That's a very good point.
Clean air and all that. And this is just some middle class, you know, North London load of old bollocks. And they went, well, you can't have a go at it, though. And so I was warned off.
Okay, so the other day I get a call from Times Radio.
Oh, yeah.
Right, now I've been
very fine organisation, that.
Fine organisation. I've been pissing on them from the top of the pyramids from day one, right? An absolute hopeless waste of money, right? You know, there are. I've invented some great ways of losing money.
Call it radio 3.5.
Yeah, that's right. And in terms of audience, basically, I'm afraid we don't seem to have one. But anyway, they spent millions on it. So I get a call, it's Times Radio here. I wonder whether you would like to come on our 10 o'clock show and talk about Trump. I said, yeah, sure, I'd be delighted. Can I just urge you, before we agree on this, that you go and have a word with your boss and say that you've invited Kelvin MacKenzie on, and is this likely to be an issue, right? And then you give me a call back, right? So anyway, 5 minutes passes. Oh, hello, Miss MacKenzie, it's Deirdre again. We've decided not to go ahead with that particular episode, but thank you very much for your time. You know, can you imagine somebody?
But how good of you to warn them, though? Because they obviously clearly didn't know, right, that would have been an issue. It's great, because ever since I've left the world of corporate bollocks, I haven't heard that for a while. There's maybe a bit of an issue with this, because we don't talk to each other like that, you know. Sorry, Pooch.
Well, we couldn't get the Ladybird woman on.
The Ladybird woman, we were supposed to get a Ladybird expert on, you know, because we were going to talk about how people's houses...
the explosion of Ladybirds.
And she agreed to do it, right? And then she obviously found out who I was, completely cancelled the interview.
So do you know what? That must be a low. That must be a low
point.
That must be a low moment for Charlotte the Booker. Can you imagine Charlotte saying, pardon, what was that?
I'm sorry.
What was that? A right-wing turn? I don't think that's reasonable, frankly.
Oh my God, so funny. I mean, here's the other thing, right? And you'll know this, because you famously once had a phone call, and I want you to tell us about it, from John Major on the eve of when you were about to, as you put it, dump a bucket load of shit over his head because of what was it, Black Monday or something. And when I was at one of these parties, you know, that you go to with the corporates, and there was the editor of The Sun standing on her own. And I went over to her, I said, how you doing? You all right? She said, I'm just waiting for your favourite person. I said, really? Who's that? She said, Keir Starmer's coming. And I said, well, why are you waiting for him? She's like, well, he's coming out that door in a minute. And she stood there. I said, well, he should be waiting for you. Not you should be. You know, you shouldn't be standing there waiting for him. He should be worried about meeting you.
Yeah.
But that's in your day. You would not have been standing waiting for a prime minister, because you got something better to do.
Oh yeah, yes, I know. But do you know what? The truth is that I've always thought with politicians who are by and large absolute shockers, by the way. There is, I said about Murdoch actually, in some ways, a great man, right? Yeah. Because he is deceiving you on a 24-hour basis. He's not doing it occasionally. He's not being occasionally deceptive. He's constantly gaming you. It's an incredible trick.
Right.
A great
and
guy.
you'll have to try and work this out as you go, right?
Yeah, well, actually, I decided to do this. What used to happen was he used to have a meeting, and I along with everybody else, he'd say something like, I think the moon is made of steak and kidney pie, and you go, yeah,
absolutely,
correct,
right,
correct,
yeah.
like that. But by the time he had said that, and you were still going like that, right? He had actually changed his mind, right? So you found yourself going like that to what was now that thing. So you had to quickly start going like this, right? So I worked out a new way, and this was defined. This was the whole group of us, right? I said to him, I don't want any buggering about here. We are not having a problem, right? There are other secret problems we're trying to keep from Rupert, and we don't want him exposing anything. So I want you, when he says something, I want you to start moving your head in a circular motion, so that whatever happens, right? You are neither agreeing with him nor disagreeing with him, right? So that was considered. That was considered quite a good idea for a time. Right. Until he basically said, "What you got?" So one time, I'm with a guy called Martin Dunn. He went on to become he was deputy editor of the Sun, but he went on to become the editor of the Daily News in New York.
Made him very wealthy, didn't it?
Yes, it did him all right. I'm not sure the readers ever recovered, but and he anyway. So we are going to see Murdoch, right? And Murdoch is raging about some effing thing, of no interest. And I said to Martin, when we're going there, Martin, shut your gob, right? Take it on the chin. No pushing back about what an effing genius you are or I am, right? We have got this totally bloody wrong. The fact that the sales of it, new records, and you're making more money than ever is neither here nor there. He has a view. Suck it up, right? So we go in there, right, like that. And he starts unloading on us, right? Sort of 30 seconds turns into 2 minutes, 2 minutes turns into 5. Ain't I bloody told you not how to do it, you bloody cannon. So we say absolutely nothing, just take it full on like that. And eventually he stops, he comes and runs out of speed. He says, what are you quiet? Are you a couple of stunned mullets? At that. And Martin says, right, the first thing he said in the whole 7 minutes of tirade, he said, no, sir, I am not a stunned mullet. Right? At that, I just thought, Martin, honestly, mate, you've fucking done it this time. And we had a tie made of a fish with a load of stars around it, right? So we remember the members of the Stunned Mullet
Society.
So that's anyway.
Yeah, no, some great stories. Comments, yes. Let's get some super chats. Have we got some?
We've got
Here we go. This is hilarious, says Genevieve. Love it. Thank you very much indeed. It's a very Friday sort of feel this show's got. Put a bit between Jess Phillips' teeth and she could run in the race at A-Tree. Actually, you're right. She is probably the most likely horsey kind of looking woman in Parliament, isn't she? Is Janet running in the Grand National, says Lou, asking Kelvin.
I'll tell you what, I'm coming to the last now. It's over Valentine's. Going over burgers.
Brilliant. Listen, we've got to talk to one of our first guests on the show. Catherine Blakelock is here. Catherine, a very good morning to you.
Good morning.
Thank you very much for joining us. Terribly sorry to keep you waiting, but we were telling stories and just sort of quite enjoying the day, really. One of the themes we've had this morning, and I know you may have other themes to talk about, is how bloody useless Starmer is. But worse than that, how bloody useless is Robert Peston? Interviewing him, making him gets an opportunity to ask the Prime Minister of this country, who is driving the country over a cliff, and doesn't ask him anything interesting.
It's general. I mean, look what's going on in Ireland at the moment, where, not a single newspaper, nothing is reporting what's been going on for 3 days.
What is going on in Ireland? Because there's some kind of fuel protests or something, right?
Yeah, and they basically shut the country down.
Right.
There's millions of people out on the streets, and nothing's being reported.
All right. So what are they out on the streets complaining about exactly?
Fuel prices, diesel prices, immigration, lack of money, regulation, the normal things.
Right. Okay. And so, I mean, well, we can. I think we've certainly got a couple of clips that we can show. We've got, in fact, I think we have got one. Have we got a clip of the police officer speaking? Pooch, you want to play that?
Yeah, here we go.
Clear that some people have significantly escalated an already difficult situation by targeting critical infrastructure such as fuel depots and refineries. These are no longer protests, they are blockades. These blockades are putting at risk supplies of food, fuel, clean water, and animal feed. These are critical for the nation and its people. This is not tolerable, and it is against the law. The willful obstruction of public roads and the movement of vehicles and persons are offences under various statutes, including the Public Order Act and Road Traffic Acts. As part of our well-established graduated policing response in dealing with protests, and Garda Síochána is now moving to an enforcement phase in relation to those impacting on critical infrastructure unless they desist and disperse from these blockades. And Garda Síochána is advising protesters to immediately cease blockades of such critical national infrastructure or face the full rigours of the law.
Interesting that the lead police officer there appears to be American.
She's Canadian.
Oh, is she? What's she doing there?
Who knows?
I mean,
she's an immigrant.
I mean, she's an immigrant. Yeah, well, that's part of the problem, isn't it? That they're all demonstrating against. But I mean, are you saying that there's a sort of specific reason why this is not being reported? I mean, obviously we're reporting it, so that's the end of that. But you know, what is the issue about reporting it?
It's the same issue as why Rupert Lowe is not reported. It's the same issue why Restore Britain's not reported. It's you know, even with Israel, Iran, we're hardly seeing anything that's going on. I mean, look at the coverage of the bombing of Beirut yesterday and all the apartment buildings. There's hardly anything. The only place you get it is on X.
Well, this is the thing. I mean, we played earlier an interview that Robert Peston did yesterday with the Prime Minister. And he's walking on what looks like a beach somewhere in the Gulf, asking him who's his favourite sort of politician on WhatsApp. You kind of going, is that the best you can do? You know, you've got access to the Prime Minister, and the best question you can ask him is, you know, who uses WhatsApp the most, and which leader do you like? It's just pathetic, isn't it?
Yeah, well, I mean, we've had this since COVID. It started full blast in COVID, where nothing was reported. You know, it's government propaganda all the time.
I mean, I think one of the most interesting things that emerged is Trump overnight attacked his major critics, who are all like Mike Graham's. In fact, they're all outside mainstream media, but they are considered the most powerful people in America. What this country needs in the media, actually, probably doesn't help Mike's pay packet, but is more Mike Graham's. But for the President of the United States, already considered probably of the right, for him to be attacking the people he considers the most powerful is not of the left, but of the further right. So these are big things. And so Ireland needs these people. So what I can't understand is why doesn't Irish media rise up and report this thing for the great drama that it is? Petrol prices, energy prices are a massive political issue. For instance, in this country, the highest paid people in the country are the truck drivers bringing oil and petrol round the country. Okay? And immediately they threaten a strike, they get the money, because within 2 days we will be in trouble. So the power of energy as a political force is massive. So I am very disappointed with the Irish media, who are made up, by the way, of some very strong-willed people. But Ireland, like the UK, needs more voices that sit outside conventional advertising-funded media.
I think that's right. So what is the sort of end game here in terms of these demos? Are you speaking to people over there, Catherine, about what they're hoping
No,
to
I'm not
achieve?
involved in it. I mean, I'm actually helping Rupert with the Great Yarmouth First election
Okay.
for those local candidates and
Right.
setting up Restore branches. So, but you know, there aren't enough people, and it's very difficult to get on. For example, after Farage, basically, I mean, I had all the shares of the Brexit Party and he wanted those shares. And after he blacklisted me, I completely disappeared. I mean, this is the first time I've spoken to you ever. I've been totally blacklisted by everybody. And once you are blacklisted, it's almost impossible, especially in Britain, to get your name out there anywhere.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I can tell you from working inside the machine, if you like, that, there are certain people who are just not a persona non grata for one reason or another. And you don't necessarily ever know why. You just kind of go, oh, we don't get them on. I mean, I had Andrew Bridgen on the other day, who I haven't spoken to since before COVID, really. Because when I was at Talk, nobody wanted to talk to him. They didn't want to hear from him. So, that's why we're here. But, we now have a different thing.
And there's people from the left who are blacklisted. I mean, I might not agree with everything that Piers Corbyn says, but Piers Corbyn I agreed with and worked on the COVID lockdown and vaccines. And on climate, he is an expert and he is totally blacklisted.
Yeah, I know. I mean, he doesn't do himself any favours, mind you, but that's another story. What about Restore's campaign coming up? You've got Great Yarmouth, as you say. A lot of people ask me, why are Restore not putting up more candidates around the country in different places? But they're not really, are they?
They're not putting any candidates up in different places, and it's obvious that we have only just set up. I mean, they've set up something like 100 branches in 2 weeks or 3 weeks, and those branches are having their first meetings with between 50 and 100 people. Just to vet the branches is a massive logistical error, and they're doing it quite seriously. So to try and vet hundreds of people, thousands of people. And additionally, if you take a place like Norfolk, we've got unitary government next year. So these elections are actually only for 1 year. So just Norfolk will need 160 new candidates in a year.
Yeah, I know. It's mad, isn't it? And nobody's actually asking the question, how much is this all costing? And do we really need all these layers of administration? I don't think we do.
Yeah, can I just say on the Rupert Low issue, which is a fascinating one, what I have discovered, I would say over the last month or so, 6 weeks, is many people are now saying to me, what do you make of Rupert Low?
Yeah.
I.e., he has a kind of under the radar traction, or attraction, actually. I'm not hostile to Nigel Farage at all, but Nigel Farage now is conventional media and conventional politics. In some senses.
Which I think is what he wants to be.
Yeah, he does want to be. Actually, to give him his credit, actually looking at the polling, I would say that the Greens are going to go into full-scale retreat.
Yeah.
And actually, Farage will turn out to be the long-term winner of the breakdown of political things. But to give Rupert Low its credit, as you say, without any kind of outside publicity, he is bubbling under. Whether that turns into votes and success, I'm less sure. But as there's only one, as Oscar Wilde said, there's only one thing worse than being talked about. It's not being talked about. So,
well, he got 4% in that poll recently, didn't he? Which I think he was quite happy with, because it was like the first poll where he'd actually registered at all. So as you say, there's definitely an interest in what he's doing.
It's bubbling. Yeah.
Whether it becomes something bigger is, I guess, up to him.
Can I come back on that point? Is that many of the reform branches on the ground have disintegrated, and I can tell you about what's happening on the ground in Great Yarmouth, in Broadland, and all sorts of other places. What you're going to see in this election is not what's happening, and I think that the anger, like we saw in Ireland, is so great, and the despair is so great, that people see 2029 as the last chance, and they are passionate in a way that the reform people are not. They really are a free speech party, and there's just this energy. I went to a Spectator event with Daniel Hannan and in London a couple of weeks ago, and it was whether Reform should join with Conservatives. And I stood up and said, "You're missing the big picture. Watch this space." I mean, Rupert Lowe has this combination of being really tough, far tougher, really considered authentic, and folksy. So he has that sort of Ronald Reagan farming folksiness, old-fashioned folksiness, but he is just a completely different character. And I think the other thing is that people like Rupert. He has a charm, and Nigel has often come across as either plastic or fake, changes his mind. And I've got Conservative friends, even before Rupert came along, said, "Can I hold my nose enough to vote for Nigel? There's something not quite right, a bit spivvy." And we are a class-based society still, and I think Rupert can attract the working class and the landed and the agricultural and the
You
country.
sound just like a Westminster PR, Catherine. You've gone all mainstream. What's going on?
Can I just say, Catherine, I'm going to take a step. I'm not going to take a section. I'm just going to disagree with you about that. I've known Nigel Farage in good times and bad for 35 years. He's not fake. He's not plastic. And yes, he is becoming more political as power comes into his eyesight. He is the best chance this country has of making a radical turn. And I wish that Rupert Lowe and Nigel Farage could in some way have an accommodation together. It's not going to happen. They are two strong characters and they should run two separate parties. But to describe him as plastic or fake, I'm sorry, Catherine, I disagree.
Okay,
well, he has changed his mind radically many times. For example, on immigration, he will say we want to deport people. Then the next minute he will say, as he did in the Steve Edgerton interview, it's too difficult even to deport illegals. It's just impossible. And then as the agenda moves right, he will then come back to it. And he's done that on many issues. So,
well, because
you know,
in a way, Catherine, we could argue about this all. We could argue about this all night. But listen, you've made your case. We'll see how it all goes. Hopefully, it goes well.
Yeah, good luck anyway,
for
Catherine.
Rupert. It's good to have everybody.
Good luck in Great Yarmouth,
at least out there.
Thank you very much. Thank
not
you.
at all. Good to see you. Thank you very much indeed. We've got to move on, just because I'm getting some harassment online here from people about Edward Hughes. This is from Mike, who says, "Mike, your harassment of poor Edward Hughes amounts to AIism. The poor chap, HR will be after you, and no doubt the police as well, unless that is you raid the local shop and run off. Keep it up, love the show, but may need to start a demo over the removal of poor Edward Hughes." But he's not been removed, he's back, isn't he? Mike, just throwing this into the discussion, says Sands, as this is home of free speech, leave Edward Hughes alone. As the late Queen said, you can't be half in and half out. I'm not sure this isn't a joke on your followers for Easter. It's really not. But Edward Hughes has been reinstated, I believe.
Big news at the end of the report, though, Mike. Listen.
Okay, what's happened to Fiona McLeod, by the way? What's happened to her?
Well, we don't know. We'll have to look into it.
Right, okay. Last spotted in a bikini somewhere in the Caribbean, I think. Right, here's Edward Hughes with the news.
Good morning. The HER decision came back. The votes were cast, and it can only mean one thing. It's me, Edward Hughes, with your news. Britain's cracking on as usual. Total knob Keir Starmers jetting off to the Gulf to help reopen the Strait of Hormuz. Because nothing says strong leadership like begging foreign powers not to mess with our petrol prices while telling Israel to play nice. Meanwhile, junior doctors are on another glorious 6-day strike, proving the NHS is basically a very expensive picket line with waiting lists. Defense Secretary admits we've been frantically tracking Russian spy submarines, sniffing around our undersea cables. Truly, a country firing on all cylinders. God save the... whatever this is. Please remember to like and subscribe. Latest Tigers? P.S. Did I mention this missus is leaving me?
Well, I tell you,
that's come as a shocker.
Yeah, that's the price you pay of being in the media.
Yeah, Mrs. Hughes,
and that's what's happened. That's what's happened to me on a number of occasions,
yes.
And has happened to you, actually, Mike.
It has indeed. I mean, I'm not sure that either one of us can blame the media for that. To be fair.
Well, it wasn't helpful, was it?
No, not really. No, definitely not helpful. But there's a private grief involved in all of these stories, and I'm sorry to hear about Edward's wife leaving him. Hugh Edward's wife, I think, left him as well, didn't she, or did she not?
I'm
not sure.
Andrew Neil's wife. has left him.
I didn't know he was married.
Yeah. He
Really?
married a Swedish engineer.
Did he?
Yeah, very nice lady. I met her, and very nice, quite quiet.
He could blame the media for that as well, I suppose.
Yes, the thing about Andrew Neil, what's most unusual about him is the only man I know who's got a receding wig.
Well, I mean, you might say that's actually quite a clever thing to have, because then people would go, well, it can't be a wig if it's receding. Obviously, it's obviously real.
Yeah, no, it's clever. It's clever stuff. So everybody has their crosses to bear, and it's a shame that old Edward is.
Yeah,
is
well,
in
listen,
pain.
there's plenty of fish in the sea.
You know what?
for
It's the
Edward.
hours. The hours does it. Both you and I have worked. Long shift. I worked through the night as managing editor of the New York Post.
Yes.
That was exhausting. And you have been on the night shift of Talk Sport, which was a 1 till 6 job, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Those are damaging health-wise and damaging also.
Well, people used to say to me, if you work too long overnight and you work at night, you'll eventually just go mad. Because you kind of do. You like taxi drivers, people that work in late night shops, late night nightclubs, that kind of thing.
Correct. I'm the Prime Minister.
Yeah.
2 things. Minimum pay is doubled for working through the night because of the health issues you're going to face. I think you need to have private health insurance and God knows what else. I remember once, so I'm working at the old New York Post there, giving it all of that, right? It's 11 o'clock at night, in comes Rupert.
Right.
Yeah. Hello, how's it all going? And said, I said, can I just raise one thing with you, Mr. Murdoch? I said, there's no canteen at night, so we haven't got anywhere to eat, right? And he's turned around, I suppose he thought this was funny, and said, well, who wants to eat at 3 o'clock in the morning? I thought,
That's a good question.
Although that's a good, and of course I agreed with him.
Yeah.
So that's how much of a brown noser I was.
It's the same at News though, right? When I used to work there, and you'd go in on a bank holiday, canteen's shut. There's nobody there. You go in,
Is that true?
Yeah.
Right. Well, that is a management bloody issue.
It's ridiculous.
But of course, it's run by people whose only job it is really. What was that, Rupert? You want your incontinence pants changed? I'll be right round.
Okay, then.
Right. So there's nobody actually caring for anybody that works there.
No. I mean, during
true
COVID,
that they shut the canteen?
The canteen's not open
at the weekend.
At the weekends, I think it's got limited capabilities, right?
Yeah.
So you can't actually get a proper meal. It's different now, though, because you can just order food in and you can go out and there's 24-hour food outlets around there. But the actual, during the week, if you go into that canteen at sort of 1 o'clock in the afternoon, it's absolutely rammed with all manner of people from HarperCollins, the Wall Street Journal, sitting there.
The dregs, the dregs of society.
Yeah, the drain on the whole company, to do absolutely bugger all. Just get paid quite a nice salary for doing nothing at all, right? And I'm going,
There's you, flogging yourself to death for an ungrateful company.
For an ungrateful company that dumped me on the street with nothing after 17 honourable years, right? And
17 dishonourable years.
And then during COVID, you'd go in, right? I was the only person in there. I was literally, we'd walk around and you wouldn't see another soul.
Did you have to wear a mask when you were inside the building?
No, they tried that. And they used to put up like plastic things. We used to record Plank of the Week, and we had to, believe it or not, sit in a room like this, right?
Yeah.
But there would be a screen there, right, between us, and then there'd be another screen on the other side. So there'd be 3 people, and these ridiculous plastic screens, and we just be going, what's going on? And at one point, I came in. I remember I came in one day, and I had a bit of a cough, and I was overheard saying to one of the makeup girls, well, maybe I've got COVID, I don't know. And then she said, are you going to have a test? And I went, no, I'm not having a test, because what's the point of having a test? If I've got a test and it shows that I've got COVID, they'll make me stay at home. I don't want to do that. And somebody overheard it and repeated it to the management, and I then had to get a phone call to say, I'm terribly sorry, Mike, but you won't be able to come back to work unless you've had a test. And I went, what? What are you talking about? And that's how crazy it was. And the whole of HarperCollins was shut down for the best part of 18 months. And when they all came back, first they started complaining about having to listen to my show in the lift, right? And then they were all they had it changed. They said they can't have that bigot, in the lift. It's terrible. It's awful. He always does talk about migrants all the time. It's shocking. And
that is funny. That.
So they took that off, right? And then they were saying. And when the Sun all went home, right? The Sun came back to work, I think, in February or something. and they were seen taking down the Christmas decorations, which had been left there from the last time they were at work. And you're going, what's wrong with these people? I was in every bloody day, you know, because I wanted to do the show from. I didn't want to do it from home. I wanted to be there. So of course, in the end, I had to go. Yeah, of course, I've had a test. Oh yeah, was it? What was it negative? I went, yeah, absolutely, and that was fine, so I could come back. It was bloody ridiculous.
So during COVID, I had to go and queue up outside Waitrose.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Right. I had to queue up behind the one in front. In Weybridge, right. And there was like a queue of about 10 people. Well, I didn't have COVID,
right,
but I did have a cough.
Right.
So I started going. That queue was about
to the
10
front
or
of the
12 people. Eventually, I was at the front in about 2 minutes. I couldn't stop bloody. And here is the news.
Right, it's fantastic, absolutely brilliant. Have we got any super chats?
We've got Kirk Loco.
Oh, Kirk Loco's here. Yeah, I think he's in Ireland. Is he in Ireland?
I think. Got a super chat. Yes, he is in Ireland.
He is in Ireland. Let's have a quick super chat before we do that. Super chat from Jane. Mike Pooch, it appears you have gifts floating around the building somewhere. Yeah, people have been sending me pictures of packages, right? But they're all on a leather sofa, which we don't obviously have.
We're going to look into it.
So they're not. We don't have whatever these packages are. They're not here. I don't know who's got a leather sofa. Why would you take a picture of gifts on a leather sofa which is not ours? Here's one for a Grand National horse for Starmer. Free the sausages. Yeah, absolutely. One more. Phillips isn't running in the Grand National. They couldn't get anyone to ride her.
God, dear, oh dear.
Well, you know.
And now we go live to Jim Davidson.
The less said about that, the better. Now, according to my screen in front of me, Pooch, it says 8:25, Christian Drogan.
Yeah, he's coming in on Monday now.
Right, so he's not here. Right, so who have we got now?
Kirk Loco.
Kirk Loco. Yeah. Kirk Loco, very good morning to you.
Good morning, Mike. How are you?
Yeah, I'm good. I'm sorry to mess you around. It's a bit chaotic here today. Nobody knows what we're doing. We keep looking at the wrong screen. Anyway, listen, you're in Ireland. We were just talking to Catherine Blakelock, who was telling us about the demos and the disquiet that's going on in Ireland. She didn't really explain it properly to us, though, as to what is happening. Can you do that for us?
I'll do my best. So a lot of people are confused at the moment, and they're saying that the protests that these farmers, hauliers, taxi drivers, construction workers is pointless because it's, due to circumstances out of their own control. It's to do with Trump, Iran, Israel, and what's going on over there. But it's absolutely nothing to do with that. It's to do with the government taxes that are piled upon at the pump. So, for example, at the moment, if you're paying €2 for diesel, €1.20 is going straight into the pockets of Fianna Fáil and Fine Gael, which are the ruling parties here in Ireland.
Yeah,
it's absolutely astronomical. 60% of what is paid at the pump is going straight into the pockets of government, and it's absolutely mind-boggling. Now, we're all aware, there's certain things that we can control and certain things that we can't control. We can't control what Donald Trump does and, the Putins of the world, but we can certainly control what our government does. And 60% at the pump is just sheer greed. Now, literally a few days ago, they were all giving themselves a pat on the back because they announced a 3.4% increase in tax receipts in the first quarter. So for 90 days, they took in 22.6 billion in tax receipts. So it's just astronomical. The common working man and woman in Ireland is being taxed out of existence at the moment. It's not manageable.
Right.
So they're literally in a situation, these guys that are up on O'Connell Street, they're down at Rosslare Port, they're stopping any fuel coming into the ports and going out into the country as well, into the petrol stations.
Right.
So they're kind of spread up and down the length and breadth of the country, all the main arteries. So the main artery into Dublin is known as the M50, and that's the circular road right around from the north down into the south. And the majority of the arteries on the M50 onto that are all blocked, or they're pretty much down to a standstill each morning and in the evening as well.
Okay.
The government are trying to spin this narrative that the common working man is turning against these fuel protesters. It's all codswallop. It's absolute codswallop. The vast majority of us are fully behind them because what they're doing is logically, it's going to be to our benefit as well.
Well, because some countries already we've seen. I think Australia have done it. I think Croatia's done it. A couple of other countries around the world have reduced the tax. I mean, we've got the same problem in Britain, by the way, because I think something not quite as high as 60%. It's about 52% of the petrol price at the pump is fuel tax and VAT. And the government have sat there actually and said, we can't reduce the price on our own. Well, you can actually, if you want to, but obviously people in Britain are perhaps not quite so easily riled as you guys in Ireland. So if you went to get petrol today, can you get into a petrol station? Can you get it?
Yeah, I'd say for the most part it should be fine for the time being. Now, overnight, there's been a few different updates. I've seen some stations around the country, they've started to announce that they're only giving fuel to emergency services.
Right.
So that was on the national media broadcaster RTE News at 9 o'clock last night. I think it was down in Kerry, one particular smaller kind of family-run petrol station. It was putting the signs out saying that they're only going to service the emergency vehicles. Now, credit to the guys on the front line protesting as well. They've said that in the vehicles that are stationary, that they can empty out the tanks and they'll give them to emergency vehicles, to the fire services, to ambulances, Gardaí. So they're doing everything that they can. There's a lot of spin that's being put out there by government as well, saying that emergency services are being blocked off and whatnot. They're certainly not being blocked off by the protesters, because there's plenty of videos going around in social media showing the hard shoulder free and fire brigades and ambulances and such like that. And there's some dirty tactics at play, of course, at certain areas as well. The Gardaí aren't assisting, people that have hospital appointments and whatnot. But late last night, it was announced that there's a meeting today. Christopher Duffy is out on O'Connell Street. He's one of the main organisers of this protest, and he gave a speech and he said last night that there is a meeting due today at 2 o'clock with government. Now, they said originally they were going to up sticks and go back home when they got their meeting, but sure, what would be the point of that? They want to know what is agreed upon in that meeting first and foremost before they go anywhere and before any trucks are moved. They need to get agreement on this, because there's no point upping sticks and going back home if they don't get a reduction in these taxes. 60% is just way too high. And you mentioned it there a moment ago, saying that other countries have done this. They have indeed. When the price shot up per barrel because of what was happening over in Iran, countries like Spain, as far as I know, they pretty much removed almost all taxes at the pump. And the citizen, the average working man or woman, isn't being hit with that anymore. So we need something that's similar to that here in Ireland. At the moment, kind of the average price at the moment for diesel is somewhere in around 220 per litre. It's it's not manageable. These people are literally in a situation, they have to do this. They've got a tank full in their vehicles at the moment, and they've parked up, and if needs be, if it gets nasty, they're going to go and block the ports, everything, from what I've heard. And if they don't do this, they're facing closure, somewhere between the next 4 to 6 weeks. So this is desperation, basically. That's where they're at. And if people think it's bad now, sitting in your car and being hindered for a half an hour, 45 minutes extra in your commute, you just imagine where we'll be when the farmer goes out of business. You're not going to have food in the stores. You're not going to have your meals on your plate. The hauliers are going. Construction is starting to slow down as well. If you think it's bad now, we're going to hit dire straits in a few weeks.
I'm surprised in a way, Kelvin, that we're not seeing that here in some ways, or that we're not seeing people. I mean, there was a little bit of it, I think, last weekend, people starting to queue up at petrol stations and stuff like that. Have you seen any of that?
Right, but there's two things I'm interested in. One, there isn't any sign at the moment, and our country, England, is a queuing country, right? There's nothing it likes more than finding a queue and getting on the back of it. So what we're not seeing is a lack of supply.
Yeah.
Right. There's definitely idiots like me who are now going in and having 3 pence worth or or €0.50 worth of petrol just to make sure that we're 100% right. But my missus has got an electric car, so basically I can do that to Starmer, and I enjoy it. But the thing that the previous guest talked about, which I find interesting, is that she was saying that there wasn't enough media coverage on this groundswell in Ireland against what the government are doing through its taxation issue. Is that true? Is it being covered big time? And are you allowed to go on your TV stations, regular free-to-air TV stations, and actually make these points? I mean, is there free speech in that accepted way?
Well, I'll get onto the free speech thing in a minute.
Yeah.
I have my own personal situation, but no, it is. It's all over the media at the moment. This is a huge, huge story. It's wall to wall at the moment. It can't be ignored. It genuinely can't be ignored because all the main arteries, as I say, into Dublin are completely shut down. Yesterday morning, there was 80 bus services that go to Dublin. Now, there's usually a few hundred, but it's a long, long time since something like this has happened. The last time we've seen protests of this size and swell from a grassroots organic movement was the water protests. I think it was around 2015 or 16. My memory's a little bit shady on that one. But yeah, that was the last time we saw something like that. And again, that was making, national news. This is being reported on Virgin Media. It is on our national broadcaster, RTE as well. And they can't ignore it. It cannot be ignored. It's happening everywhere. And they've been very clever about it, as I say, because they've hit the various ports. They're down in Galway, down in Cork. Rosslare is, I think, probably one of the biggest. I think about 40% the fuel is delivered there for Ireland. And late last night, again, at about, I think it's about 8:30, 9 o'clock last night, Gardaí issued an ultimatum basically to the protesters there saying it's the usual public order, the Section 8. This is something that they do. They rinse and repeat this, the old Section 8 order, that if they don't vacate the area, they would likely be fined €1,000 and could see a prison sentence of up to 6 months. Now, free speech, I have my own personal issue. I'm a political activist, and I currently I'm going through the courts. I'm getting dragged through the courts at the moment myself. They arrested me. They raided my home back in October 2024. They took 3 of my electronic devices. You can see it all over my Twitter. That's my main.
I'm just looking at that now, actually, Kirk. Yeah, I'm just seeing that you're fighting a tweet case.
Yes. So basically, I was given information about an illegal migrant who allegedly, I have to say that, exposed himself to a minor on a bus in a rural town here, not too far from me here. And that is up before the courts. The Gardaí and the DPP, that's the equivalent of the CPS, they basically said that I spread misinformation.
Oh, yeah.
So they're saying it's a false allegation. Now, generally, something like this would be a civil matter. But when the UK sneezes, Ireland catches a cold.
Yeah.
So you guys over there are fully aware of what it's like with people being arrested, homes raided, devices seized and such like that. The same thing is now starting to happen here in Ireland.
Right. And that's a long time ago, though, isn't it? So you've been fighting this for a year and a half or something.
Yeah, I was arrested on October 15, 2024. I went through 12 hours of questioning over one tweet. They took 3 of my devices. I was brought in again on September the 5th, 2025. There's just been so much. I was then arrested November the 5th, 2025, and went all over the media because I was using a pseudonym, an alias at that point. I didn't really hide myself too much, but at that point I just went public and I said to hell with it. I can't say too much because it is getting dragged through the courts, but it's a hell of a story. There's a huge story in the background as well. I changed my legal team for good reason. I can't go into it, but let's just say for good reason. And I have a fellow activist, barrister by the name of Leisha de Bruin. She's quite well known. She's speaking out on things like, open borders, immigration and crime, something that I've been really, really at the forefront for about 2 years now, prominently highlighting the links between mass migration and crime. And she's now fighting that as well. She's been at the forefront of women's rights, transgender ideology.
Right.
She's taken my case. One of Ireland's very best solicitors, Porg Lanch, as well has come on board, and we're working with Ezra Levant, who I'm not sure if you're familiar with.
Yeah, I know Ezra, yeah.
He's done a lot of work, and he's highlighted my case as well, and we've set up a crowdfund and we mean business with this. As Pádraig Lang said, we're determined not to make me Ireland's Lucy Connolly.
Yes,
so
quite.
this is where we're at.
Well, let's hope
Sorry
not.
to change the subject, but I wanted to give myself a bit of PR.
I mean, I should have known myself. I didn't have a chance because I know we were supposed to have you on yesterday, and then we didn't get you on. And then today, I didn't get a chance to look at what you've got. And I've seen your Twitter account. The Twitter account is Polito _Loco. If you want to follow it,
you can search my name. You won't find too many with my name on it anyway. Kirk Loco. You should be able to
Kirk
find me.
Loco's great name, by the way.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
And also, just finally, to go back on the protest front, it's got you've got a tweet here saying the government has agreed to meet with protesters tomorrow. That would be today, presumably. So, will they be trying to resolve this today or what?
Well, I've been saying the last few days, it is, I'm sure you know, Mike, it's a war of attrition, and both sides want to come off out of this looking strong, and you've got two bulls bashing heads at the moment. I've heard some sentiments about it, possibly like an agreement kind of coming into place. That I've heard a few of the protesters saying that they want to cap the maximum at 170 for diesel. Whether that's possible or not, we'll wait and see. I think it might drag on for a few more days. See, at the moment, they were kind enough, the protesters, if you look at it. It's midterm at the moment, so the schools and such aren't actually in this week. Now, if this drags on into Monday morning, all hell is going to break loose because Ireland has an absolutely woeful public transportation system, and there's extra cars on the road then early in the morning. An average day for me, where I live to try and get into Dublin, like an average day, I'm looking at about an hour and 45 just to get to the Lewis. That's just to the Lewis. And then I'd have another 45 minutes on top of that, and then I have to go back the way again. So I'm kind of looking, on average, most people where I live, I'm down in South Wicklow. So I'd be looking at about anywhere between 2.5, probably on average about 2.5 hours each way, 5 hours commute time. It's insane. It's absolutely insane. And this country is, it's overloaded. There's so much money flooding through it. But unfortunately, as you know, it's exactly the same story in the UK. People like me, we're working, and our taxes are going straight into these IPAS, these refugee centres, as they're called here, the International Protection Asylum System. We call them IPAS. So it's all these hotels, B&Bs, guest houses, every nook and cranny of the country is flooded. We've about 33,000 official in these IPAS centres, but they're just popping up everywhere. And then, we had the Ukrainian issue, and we had thousands of Ukrainians coming over here. All of our taxes are essentially going straight in to these causes. We're not seeing any benefit. Our hospitals are falling apart. Our roads are falling apart. We've had a never-ending saga with the National Children's Hospital. It's still being built. It's been, kicked out to next autumn again. We just have crisis in every single public sector, and all that we're getting from government is, daily notifications, 30 million, 40 million for Ukraine, for Gaza, for Africa, climate scams in Africa, and gender equality things in Somalia and Rwanda and stuff. It's absolute nonsense. A government's first job is to look after its own citizens, and that's it. Everything else after that, we wouldn't begrudge. We're the land of 1,000 welcomes. We wouldn't begrudge if we're in a stable situation, but we're not. We're seeing crime going through the roof, rapes are going through the roof, violent assaults, murders, all of it. It's crazy.
I know. It's a microcosm of what's happening here, of course, as well. Kirk, listen, great to meet you, great to see you. We'll talk to you a lot.
Likewise, Mike. Thanks for having me on.
We'll definitely get you back on because there's an awful lot of stuff we need to get through there.
Well, the great thing about Kirk is his ability.
Thank you very much, Mike.
To come on your show.
Yeah.
And be able to tell us something I hadn't got the vaguest idea about, and it's literally
across the water,
20 minutes away by plane across the water.
Well, 20 minutes by plane, 2.5 hours in the car from the airport.
Yeah, that is true. Actually, on that whatever that is, it's
M50,
an awful, terrible road. You'd have thought they'd have done something about that. And so he is making points, of which you pointed out are a microcosm really of what's happening over here, but.
I would not have known that.
No.
So, but, you know, I'm not saying the news site should report what's happening in Ireland, but it sounds like a pretty big thing if he's saying next Monday, basically, Ireland grinds to a halt.
Could grind to a halt. Yeah.
There's a lot we could learn from Ireland. For instance, we could learn to reduce our VAT,
Yes.
so that we attract global big names to base themselves in the UK, which would be part of the Brexit premium, as distinct from the situation we have now under a Tory and Labour government, where we still charge the highest that we can possibly charge, or near the highest, and at the same time, everybody, all these majors who make all this money, right, rebase for tax reasons out there, and therefore we don't get the tax revenues, and we don't have the headquarters, we don't have those jobs, and Ireland has got money coming out of its kazoo, but still charges 62% tax on petrol, and we sit there worrying about, oh, look at the price of petrol. Nobody says, look at the price that this government is charging us on the petrol.
And to be honest, you know, you say that maybe we don't see it because it's in another country. If those kind of protests were happening in France, that'd be all over the news.
That is
We'd
true.
be watching that every night at 6 o'clock, and it would be in the papers because it's Ireland
or Scotland.
Yeah, exactly.
Or Scotland or Wales.
Yeah, but Ireland's kind of forgotten about. I remember spending a bit of time in Ireland. Obviously, your brother worked there, and I used to go over there sort of in the 90s, I guess. And at that time, it was one of the wealthiest. Dublin was one of the wealthiest cities in the world, and they had their commercial office space was more expensive than London's.
Yeah.
And I remember somebody telling me when I was there that the per capita ownership of helicopters was bigger in Dublin than anywhere else in the world. Right. Because an awful lot of them they're slightly, what you might call, slightly on the old dodgy side, as you would expect from people who were very entrepreneurial, very sort of switched on. And when they were changing over to the euro, suddenly there was a kind of rash of spending, because loads of people had these Irish punts that they literally kept under the bed, and they didn't want to give it to the bank because they didn't want to declare it, right? So buying sort of Lamborghinis and helicopters and houses. And,
what about horses? What about horses? You look at the Grand National.
Well, the Grand National is all Irish, isn't it?
And I don't know what percentage. I think it's at least a third.
Yeah.
And if there's a voice of a jockey that has just won a jump race in the UK that isn't Irish, then you'll clearly have tuned into some foreign station.
Right.
It isn't incredible, but they own the industry.
Yeah.
What I can't understand over here is I've owned horses, right? It's a complete joke. Complete joke owning a horse.
You just lose a load of money, don't you?
Well, it costs you a fortune to get into it.
Right.
And then the other thing that happens is the training fees.
Yeah.
Well, supposing the training fees are somewhere between 15 or 20 grand. Yeah. That's why trainers are in it. They're not in it to win anything. They are in it for the training fee. But then what happens? There's things called, and it seems to always end, at the end of the bill, it says orthocopy or something.
All right.
It nearly always has a OPY at the end of it, and it's the vets bill.
Okay.
And the vets bill turns out to be, 800, 1,500, 2 grand. Oh,
Right.
I'm very sorry, the leg fell off.
Yeah, it's lame.
It's 8.5 grand or whatever. And at the end of the day, it's not. So you really have to love it. But by the way, do love it and get together with a load of mates.
Yeah.
Get 10 of you to own a horse. You have as much fun on a 10th or a 20th
you
or a
go,
50th.
You go and watch it run.
You go
right?
and watch it, and honestly, you get into the ring and you get into the caught up in it. And honestly, if it ever wins or even finishes 7th, you are in 7th heaven. So the Irish own that industry, and they will own the Grand National tomorrow.
Yeah.
There is no ifs and buts about it. Anybody who backs any horse that is not connected with Ireland is literally throwing their money down the drain.
Excellent. I was once given the privilege of awarding a winner in a horse race at Musselburgh in Scotland,
Musselburgh, lovely.
which is a lovely little track. And I think it's one of those that's got it's Kelso. It's got the golf course in the middle, isn't it? Because there's also a golf course at Musselburgh.
And there's also a golf course at Sandown.
At Sandown, yes. And also, is it what's the one that's just south of London? Which has also got a golf course in the middle of it, not Liphook, but it's somewhere down there.
Oh, right.
But I was invited by some sponsor or other of Talk 107, the station that you bought, right? Originally named as Dunedin Radio, right? One of the worst ideas he ever had.
But it was an idea.
It was a good idea. It was
a good idea when we bought it.
You know what was interesting?
The trouble was that the managing director and the manager of talent there turned out to be absolutely hopeless.
And anyway, so 20 years,
Well, the
20
problem
years
was-
later,
the pro-
20 years later, he's a media tycoon.
The problem was, right, that it was the first speech radio license that had been given out since LBC in 1973, right? So this was about, 2006-ish or something like that? And so Kelvin at the time in charge of TalkSport had bought it for Wireless Group. And I, for some reason, was nominated as I became the program director, bizarrely. And after the first guy who had hired me got fired, and the thing was, I had been sworn to secrecy, right? And of course, who's the first person he rings when he gets fired? Me, right? And I'd been told to make myself scarce to go to Glasgow. And old Colin Patterson goes, "Hey, you'll never guess what's happened." I'm like, "What?" He said, "I've been fired." I'm like, "Have you? Crikey, that's terrible news." I said, he said, "Have you any idea about this?" I said, "Absolutely no idea." He said, "Do you know who they're getting in instead?" I said, "No idea." Sorry, shocking situation. Anyway, so I get told, right, you go into Musselburgh and you're going to have lunch. And anyway, did the usual thing. Went, go to the lunch, the racing going on. Got completely pissed, and was then asked to present the prize, right, the main race of the afternoon at 3 o'clock. And I wandered out to the winner's circle, and this guy goes, "Sorry, who are you?" I said, "I'm I'm from Talkwell." He said, "Oh, great." He said, "You're here to get..." I said, "Yeah." And he said, and what do you do there? I said, "I'm the president of the Independent Republic of Mike Graham." So he introduces me as the president of Talkwell. I'm handing this guy the cup. I can barely stand up, It's absolutely hilarious. Anyway,
do you drink less today than you drank 20 years ago?
Yeah, definitely.
Do you?
Definitely.
No, you don't.
What?
Hold on a second.
No.
There's the voice of truth.
Yeah, the voice of God. No, listen, I now deliberately do not drink on a Sunday or a Monday, right? Which
really?
is 2 days a week, which is
Get the Licensed Victualers Association. No wonder the pubs are going bust round in
to be fair, by the time I've finished drinking on Friday and Saturday, there's nothing left. This place has been drunk dry. No, because in the old days, right, I would go, when I worked at Daily Express, for example, and there was a time when I was foreign editor and Ian Walker was news editor.
What a ridiculous appointment that was, foreign editor.
We would go, we didn't have any correspondents either, we couldn't afford them. We would go to the Oxo Tower and we would literally have 3 bottles of this wine that we discovered called Mad Fish, which is a rather nice New Zealand Sauvignon Blanc, 55 quid a bottle. And we would have 3 of those and go back to work. And paper was absolutely fantastic. Sold many, many more copies than they do now. Tessa Hilton, do you remember her?
Yeah.
She used to complain. She said, "I can spot a drunk from 50 yards away." And I know that because my husband's one. I was like, "Well, that's fine. Well, you don't have to worry about spotting us. We know we're drunks, but we're quite good at what we do." But we'd be back in the pub at 8 o'clock, drinking for about another 2 hours, and you go home. And I mean, that was just an ordinary day. So you'd probably get through best part of 3 or 4 bottles of wine. Every day.
A 3 or 4 bottler is an absolute shocker.
But every day, though. I mean, that's what it was like. And then you'd get up in the morning, go back in and start again, do the same thing. Amazing. It was great, though. I mean, as I say, we sold a lot more papers back then.
Yes, well, that may be the answer then.
You never did. I mean, there was, funnily enough, again, for my sins, listening to Times Radio this week, there was a discussion about, is it the end of the long lunch?
Yeah.
Which I think hasn't been a thing for a long time. The people, I mean, you weren't a luncher, were you?
No,
you were very much a head down, get on with it.
Just to get on with it. But yes, in the old days, so for instance, Murdoch went to lunch with a very bright guy, the editor of the Sun in the old days, called Larry Lamb.
Oh yeah.
And they went to the Savoy for lunch. And the wine waiter came over and said, "What would you like?" And Murdoch said, "We'll have the house red, thank you." and the wine guy said, "Look, Mr. Lamb, he doesn't normally have the house red. In fact, he said to me that the house red, he wouldn't wash his car with it." At which point Murdoch said, we'll have the house red.
Brilliant. Amazing. Have we got news to do? We have got news to do. So Edward Hughes is back, by the way. So for all you people,
yeah, but let's feel sorry for him with him losing his marriage because of his work with you.
Yeah, and in fact, we've got a picture of Mrs. Hughes as well. Can we show that?
She's a gorgeous-looking woman. If that's the one I think.
Decent. No, you're thinking of Fiona MacLeod, I think.
Yeah.
No, it's not her.
Here we go.
Yeah.
Hello, Mike.
Yeah, here she is.
I'd like to send a message to some of your viewers, if I might. My Eddie, or Eduardo, as I like to call him, is feeling a little insecure about some of the negative comments he's been reading on YouTube. He's a very sensitive soul, but he can take criticism if it's merited. Could I ask you if you think he's doing a good job? He is the announcer at a lovely Welsh football club, and they all seem to love him. Just looking for some feedback, really.
Yes.
All the best, Edwina.
So this is a problem, look.
So here's Fiona MacLeod,
Well,
right?
there's not a suggestion, is he, that he's having a dalliance?
Well,
no, is he?
I don't know. Check it out. Are you going to show the picture? I think
This
you're
is
going
your
to show.
news with me, Fiona
He's not
MacLeod.
showing.
My uncle Donald put me onto this, so I hope I do okay. I hear the previous guy has been suspended.
Okay, now hold on. I'll do it. I'll bring it after the news.
Can I say good morning, Britain, and not quaking in their shoes over this production technique that you've introduced, Pooch? When you say something's going to happen, it's an old idea if it did happen.
Here we go.
Good morning. The HER decision came back. The votes were cast.
Oh, for fuck's
What? What?
Dear
me.
Good morning. The HER decision came back. The votes were cast, and it can only mean one thing. It's me, Edward Hughes, with your news. Britain's cracking on as usual. Total knob-Keir Starmers jetting off to the Gulf to help reopen the Strait of Hormuz. Because nothing says strong leadership like begging foreign powers not to mess with our petrol prices while telling Israel to play nice. Meanwhile, junior doctors are on another glorious 6-day strike, proving the NHS is basically a very expensive picket line with waiting lists. Defense Secretary admits we've been frantically tracking Russian spy submarines, sniffing around our undersea cables. Truly, a country firing on all cylinders. God save the... whatever this is. Please remember to like and subscribe. Latest Tigers? P.S. Did I mention this missus is leaving me?
Good morning. This is your news with me, Fiona MacLeod. My uncle Donald put me onto this, so I hope I do okay. I hear the previous guy has been suspended. I'm pretty sure I know what he looks like. He sent me a picture. Anyway.
I think Edward Hughes has lost a bit of weight, you know.
Yeah, he
He's
looks
looking-
good. He looks
he's
good
looking
on
trim,
it.
isn't he?
Ever since you've started getting him up so early, he seems to have obviously been reducing the amount of alcohol he's been taking.
Absolutely.
And he looks good. What is astonishing about all that is that what we'll have to check for is any Hugh Edwards aspirations within him, because there seems to be quite a lot. The way that you get on at the BBC is if you have any inclination towards young men.
Yes.
I don't know whether that applies to. I hope
Well, they haven't had a firing for that for a couple of weeks now, so things are looking up.
Yes, it is. That would be funny, isn't it? That they have on automatic a get key.
Yes.
Which basically you hit it and it says, and news just in, another BBC employee has been charged with being a paedophile.
Right.
This brings the number to 4,728.
Isn't it great as well how they all come out and go, I had no idea. You know, really? What? A guy that you work with quite closely who has been number one sort of on the list of, presenters for quite some years. And you didn't know he was interviewed by, His Majesty's Constabulary back in 2018. I mean, really? Are you supposed to believe that?
Yeah.
Ridiculous,
But have
isn't it?
you also noticed, with the exception of Hugh Edwards, by the way, who everybody universally disliked, and actually, I guarantee to you at some stage, it would do him actually a lot of good if he came on the Mike Graham show.
It would.
I know it sounds bizarre, but at least you'd be able to ask him the questions which your viewers want answered,
Exactly.
as distinct from if you've got. I mean, for instance, there's all this nonsense about Prince Andrew Mountbatten, Women with
Windsor.
Scrubs, as he's now known, right? There's all this nonsense about what a great interview that was done by that BBC.
Emily Maitlis, Well, that's
you're
great.
sitting there, you're interviewing a guy about his association with a jailed paedophile in the United States. If you can't get to grips with that, right, rather than saying, and then you went to the, let's just get this right, you went to the pizza, the pizza Hut place in Woking. Is that right? Is there any truth about that?
Yeah.
You know, how could we prove that?
Yeah.
Or
I mean, I've been bemoaning all this week about the state of the media, right? And it was personified for me, and we'll play you this a bit later on, maybe in the next hour. The Robert Peston interview. I don't know if you've watched it.
All I saw was a clip.
What an absolute and utter disgrace. You know, he's doing, because I said, you know, all these guys want to do, and sure enough, he proved it. Stood on the tarmac. There's the planes behind him. You know, we're off to the Middle East. You know, I'll be on the plane with the Prime Minister. Yeah. You know, he's a very important mission to go to the Middle East and, you know, make sure that this peace holds and all. And it's all absolute cobblers, right? And Starmer then gives him an interview. The like of which you've literally never seen, where he talks about things like, I'm very fed up with Donald Trump. He doesn't ask him about, you know, Morgan McSweeney's phone, which seems to now be a story that nobody cares about in the media. He asks him, he wanders around on a beach somewhere in you know, very chummy, laughing and joking.
Can I just point out, the Middle East is a complete beach. Right.
Yes.
The exception is the houses.
True, but I mean, the point is that he's not sitting in a chair with him. He's walking along, and it's windy, so it's already bad. Yeah. And he's asking him about, you know, does he use a lot of WhatsApp groups? And you're going, it's just, you know, so you get an interview with the Prime Minister, the guy who's ruining Britain, right, one step at a time. Literally driving us off a cliff, and all you can think of asking him is, you know, who's your favourite WhatsApp leader? And he says to the bloke that's running Finland.
The only way you can become political editor of a mainstream media outlet is by asking those questions.
Yeah.
And I feel sorry for them. So I know through the GB News political editor that he can never ask his question because why? He never gets picked.
Yeah, right.
And you couldn't ask for a nicer guy than the political editor
Hope,
of
he's a good
GB
guy,
News. You go 1,000 miles. Me, I'm running GB News. I also get somebody else in there to ask the vilest question I can think of.
Totally.
And that way, that then gets reported.
Yeah.
The question that they wouldn't pick me. They'd say, we like you. Why do we like you, Mr. Peston? Because you ask nice, friendly little questions that can be all cut up and distributed through TikTok and the like.
Yeah, but shall we have a look at the walking one? Shall we have the walking one? Let's have the walking one. I mean, this is...
Whether there is such a thing as an international leaders WhatsApp group.
Well, there are plenty of WhatsApp groups of different groups of leaders. I'm not a WhatsApp fan. I have to
You're not?
No, because all that happens is you just get lots and lots of discussion on WhatsApp. But we have set them up for various groupings, particularly about things like Ukraine, etc. So we can all be in touch with one another.
That is how conversations between leaders goes on these days.
A lot of it is face-to-face, a lot of it is on the phone. And I believe you have to build those relationships.
Yeah, of course.
And I think that they need to be done predominantly face-to-face. You need to be able to pick up the phone and know instinctively where somebody's going to be.
This is an improper question, therefore. Which of the leaders loves WhatsApp most? Come on, reveal!
I think that, I would say, and I think you'd be pleased with this, Alex Stubb in Finland is a great one for getting us to...
I mean, just don't bother.
Right, so here
That's
we are.
ridiculous,
Here
isn't
we
it?
are in the grip of what looks like a dangerous situation, an economic situation for ordinary people, i.e. the voters. Those kinds of questions at a high level, are you on a WhatsApp group with Macron
seriously.
and co? It's of no concern or interest
And then the
whatsoever.
laugh as well, the you know, like we're all mates.
So he basically, but you can't keep these jobs. You can't keep these jobs unless you have that kind of access. So most of them probably start out in life. They're pretty good journalists. They've got the tough question. They know what's what. They know what's interests their viewers or readers. And in the end, they can't carry on their work if they decide to pump it up slightly. So that is why, constantly I keep on saying it, things like the Mike Graham show and those that follow, right, will be the way forward for ordinary people.
My viewers and listeners, right, could not care less if I get an interview with Keir Starmer. They'd like to see it, but they're not interested in whether or not we get. I mean, even at Talk, I hardly ever got any Labour people on because they wouldn't come on.
Good,
you know,
good.
And that was fine with me.
Probably kept your audience high.
Exactly right. And they used to complain on a regular basis. You know, they used to write in to my bosses to say, you know, can you please ask Mike Graham to stop calling the Prime Minister a liar? And I'm like, well, he is a liar. And I'm sorry, a defence of truth on that one, right? So I said, all right, I'll tell you what I'll do. I'll stop calling him a liar. And I just started asking everybody else who came in, do you think Keir Starmer's a liar? And I got Kevin MacKenzie in. I said, do you think he's a... She said, yeah, absolutely, absolute liar. And they hated it. And they used to send sort of emails in to my boss and say things like, Mike's never going to get an interview with Keir Starmer. He carries on like this. I'm like, I couldn't give a toss. I don't want to interview him. Yeah. What's the point? Because all he's going to do is tell me that he likes the Finnish Prime Minister.
Yeah. So basically, actually, your commercial success is being based on a Starmer-free zone.
Absolutely.
Actually, if you
and the fact that also
imagine if you said tomorrow, big news tomorrow, get in early, David Lammy tells all only on the Mike Graham show.
I know.
That is great. That will do more good.
That is great. No, it is. It's ridiculous. Here's one from LTO. So Starmer's probably blocked from all the chat groups he's in. Yeah, probably. He's so boring. What are we doing now?
Now we're gonna play a clip and then Sunil's.
Oh yeah, okay. So here's. You know what I want, because Kelvin and I are great admirers of Nick Ferrari. Let's play Nick Ferrari and Yvette Cooper, because this is yet another example of Yvette Cooper being asked a straightforward question and being completely unable to answer it.
Right. What's in that?
I thought Sir Keir had said that these vessels would be seized. How many have been seized, and why was that allowed to happen?
I'm not going to comment on the detail of operations. What I can tell you is that we have given permission now for action to be taken against the Russian shadow fleet. Operational decisions then have to be taken in the right way by the military. But it is, there are indications of the way in which not just the Russian shadow fleet is operating, but also the way in which we have seen increased Russian threats, not just to the UK, but across Europe as well. We will be saying more about this shortly, but I would say I think this is a sign of the scale of volatility, the nature of the kinds of threats, the fact that the Cold War peace dividend is gone,
these are empty
and the
words.
way in which we need to respond.
Foreign Secretary, these are empty. I mean, these 3 vessels sailed through unchallenged.
Yeah,
we've got no navy
in the
to
right
deploy
way.
the Channel currently.
Well, one of the things that we're doing as part of our increased defence investment is renewing our frigates, and doing that alongside Norway, for example. And I've been to see some of the joint work between the UK and Norway. That is also about dealing with the threats from the Russian Northern Fleet, the threats to our Arctic security, and so on.
So, again, Nick Ferrari, another sort of lesson in how to interview people, where he goes, the policy supposedly of Britain is to stop Russian ships from sailing willy-nilly through the English Channel. But as he quite rightly points out, 3 of them went through it and nobody did anything. Not only did they not board them, they didn't stop them. And she's going, oh, well, we've got this deal with Norway. And it's like, what are you talking about? Sunil Sharma's here, by the way. Sunil, good to see you. Yeah, welcome to the first time, for the first time in the studio, right? Kelvin MacKenzie's still here as well. I mean, this Russian story, right? I think it's on the front pages of some paper or other. Doing anything about it. So what's the point?
You know what's so embarrassing? I get to travel quite a lot around the globe, and the response I get from so many people, not just in the UK, we talk about a lot on this show about how bad this government is, but we are actually an embarrassment worldwide now. There is no
laughing stuff. Well done. Yeah, we're finally number 1 at something. The world's most useless country.
Number 1 in global embarrassment.
Yes, it's true though, isn't it? So what do people say? What sort of things do they say to you? You were in Dubai recently, weren't you?
Yeah. So some of the stuff you'll get is I can't believe what's going on in England, in Britain, specifically London. Yeah. And it's not even okay, you maybe previously you'll get it occasionally. Now it's every single person you meet. It doesn't matter if they're from Europe, US, Asia, wherever. It's a universe. As soon as I start speaking, they can tell British accent or whatever. The first thing they'll say is, "What's going on in your country?" And it's
that's shocking, that, isn't it?
Initially it's it's kind of funny at the start when you first started hearing. Then later on, you're like, this is actually it hurts. Like it's like this actually hurts. So like people
But
actually.
don't you find it? The trouble is, you rather than defending it, you say you're quite right. You don't know the half of it. You don't even live it.
Yeah, but also it comes to a point where they kind of look at you and go, well, why are you not doing something about it? You know, it's like it's your fault. You shouldn't be letting them do this to you.
And then it's really weird because you want to get, your natural thing is to get defensive, right? So it's your country for defense. And then you're sitting there thinking, what can I even say? Like, what can I actually say apart from talk about our history? And then aside from that, there's nothing I can say to anyone positive about what the UK is doing right now. I literally can't think of anything.
No. Well, I think, again, summed up very uniquely by HMS Dragon, you know, which, first of all, was sitting in sort of dry dock in Portsmouth. It was one of the only ships that we could send to the Middle East, but we couldn't send it for 3 weeks because it still had stuff to be done. Then they took it out and put it into the sort of into a sort of anchor situation off the Scilly Isles for a couple of weeks, and then finally it went to Cyprus, and it's there for 2 weeks, and now they've taken it back in for repairs.
Well, it's broken down.
It's broken down.
I mean,
it's like worse than the worst second-hand car.
Yeah.
You know.
Well, do you know the other thing? I thought that our Secretary of State for Defence,
Healy,
who is we've talked about before, was at one stage being suggested as somebody to replace Starmer because he kind of middle right. Honestly, something rather serious has happened to his mental health.
Right.
He's now turning to the Russians, right, the most most aggressive country on earth, right, militarily. He's saying, "You're at this." He said, "We see you."
Right.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Well, they're seeing you and there's doing something about it. We have no intention of blowing up one of their destroyers.
Right.
Imagine what would happen then. And then somebody would say, so why do we bother to say it?
I know.
Why bother? Because actually I feel humiliated.
He's making Putin scared. Putin
Yeah, exactly.
Sitting there. He's thinking, oh my God.
Have you heard what Healy said about us? Right,
It's like
okay,
Starmer
back behind the sofa.
Yeah. It's like Starmer disappearing off yesterday to go, I'm going off to the Middle East to sort out the ceasefire. No, you're not. Everybody knows you're not going to do that because you haven't got any power. You've got no skin in the game. You've got no forces there. The one ship you did have has now gone back into the garage. What are you doing?
What about that idiot of a foreign secretary saying to Israel, right, you've got to stop firing those rockets at Hezbollah.
Yeah.
Could I point out that the reason they're firing them at them is because Hezbollah are firing them at them, right?
Yeah.
That's called a war.
Exactly.
What is the point of our foreign secretary humiliating herself and humiliating our country by saying things in which we have no skin in the game and actually is being said for what reason?
Yeah.
I have no idea.
Exactly
I feel upset every time one of our secretaries of state says something where clearly we have no energy or intellect or politics that can follow it
well,
up.
I'm going to upset you now more because we've got John Healy here. I think this is
John
a clip of
Healy
him talking about his nemesis, Vladimir Putin. Have a look.
I'm revealing details of a recent military operation undertaken by Russia. And in doing so, I'm doing this to expose the continuing Russian activity that threatens us in the UK and to highlight our constant readiness to respond. In the last few weeks, while the eyes of many were trained on the Middle East, the UK, in partnership with Norway and other allies, have responded to increased Russian activity in the Atlantic, north of the UK. This operation involved a Russian Akula-class attack submarine and a concurrent deployment of 2 specialist submarines from Gugi. That's Russia's main directorate for deep-sea research. And last November, I outlined how these Gugi units, including the spy ship Yantar, are vessels directed by President Putin to conduct hybrid warfare activities against the UK and our allies, specifically around critical undersea infrastructure.
What a load of old rubbish, right?
Putin must be shitting it after that.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, the
well,
war's
it's worse
over.
than that, right?
The
Worse
war's
than
done.
that. Until yesterday, when he came and appeared to make that statement about how we're monitoring it and, you know, we've got your eyes on it and we can see it's all happening from the googly whatever it is, he was on holiday. As was bloody Starmer, who apparently was in Spain, right, on Tuesday. Yeah. On Tuesday, when supposedly, you know, the world was going to end, right, there was going to be the wiping out of an entire civilization by Donald Trump. He's in Malaga, right, going, just let me know what happens. He's supposed to be a world leader. He's supposed to be on the UN Security Council. He's on holiday with his wife and his kids, right? Playing pinball or something. Let me know if Trump decides to blow up the entire world.
I just don't know what Keir Starmer's motive is as Prime Minister of this country. I always had, maybe naively, the idea that the Prime Minister, the Cabinet, they want to serve their country and they operate in the best interests of their country.
That's what he says, isn't it?
That alone.
He says that.
None of his actions show that.
No.
I can't think, again, I don't want to be mean or too critical, but I don't see anything he does that shows to me that he acts in Britain's interest. I honestly think, because surely he must have outside advisors who will say, this is how you grow the economy, this is how you stop the borders, this is how you do that. And do you think he just wakes up and says, you know what, I'm going to do the exact opposite. I'm going to do the exact opposite of growth. I'm going to do the exact opposite of controlling borders. I don't know what goes through his thought process. I don't know the people around him, what they do.
Well, he hasn't got a chief of staff, right? He hasn't got head of communications. He's never replaced them after they left. After old Morgan McSweeney disappeared and lost his phone, he's gone. He's got no advisors, and he doesn't really. And people say that Starmer, without an advisor, doesn't really know what to do.
Yeah.
Luckily, I've got Rachel Reese's autobiography here, which was sent in to me a little bit earlier. Richard III. There you go. She's off the scale, right? You never hear from her anymore. Don't know what she's doing.
But she was very proud the other day.
Economy's going down the
Very proud the other day of saying that they'd taken 450,000 children out of poverty.
Oh yeah.
What she didn't mention was that they had put 450,000 people into poverty to pay for the damn thing.
Yeah.
No, but they don't believe in the commercial world.
No, they don't understand it.
Do you know what?
They don't understand
this makes me laugh because what's happening is that the whole of Asia, right? Their cleverness and their hard work and their lack of welfare. Actually, what do you do when you need money? You work harder, right? Over here, when you need money, you do less.
Yes.
They've turned the prism upside down and looking at it from the wrong end. And what will happen is that we are failing to create wealth.
Right.
When you fail to create wealth and understand that wealth is the only thing that is going to save us, then you end up with a government like this, which is destroying business and therefore destroying the opportunity. Not for ourselves. I'm an old bloke, he dies tomorrow. Good. Biggest celebration will be in Liverpool, right? Honestly, I can't imagine how big the cathedral will be that day, right? But, right, actually, do you know what? I worry about our grandchildren and the sense that they get that all they have to do really is wait for the grandparents to die, and that the house price inflation over the last 40 years will mean that they then don't have to do any work because actually money will trickle down to them. We have to change that. And by the way, the only way to change that actually is what Greece went through, which is pensions crashed. Welfare payments crashed. Everything crashed, right? No spending whatsoever on things we don't need. By the way, the arts, get on with it. Did you see what they're going to do now? I think in Scotland. So for creative people, they're going to put them on minimum pay. So previously, you produce a poem nobody wants to read, that's it. A play nobody wants to go to see, everything, right? What happens is you starve. And actually, commercial effects actually do have an effect on your cutting edge. Now they're saying you're going to get the minimum, you're going to get minimum pay. So you're going to get paid just the same. So actually over here, right, you watch what happens. In year 18 months, our art world is not doing so well, we need to subsidise. We have just got to get back to basics. You work hard, you'll do fine. You don't work hard, I'm afraid you're in trouble.
But this is the problem, isn't it, Sunil, with socialism, where you've got these people who not only don't understand the commercial world, but think that the only way to create growth is to fund things with government money, which i.e. is our money.
And I think that is scary, hearing about the Creative Worlds. I had no idea. I think they've already been partly destroyed by the push of DEI and all that stuff. I didn't realise even the minimum pay. And I think this is like the creative world or any industry, you need to have a sense of fear of failure. And you do need to fail. That's the only way you grow, right? So you can't grow without failure. And I think these guys just don't.
They don't get it.
They don't get it. They've never worked in a commercial job. They've never actually had any real life experience. And you know what? This is going to sound really rude, but I would actually accept or prefer if Keir Starmer, Yvette Cooper, Rachel Reeves just said, you know what? We actually don't know what we're doing. We're idiots and we need help. and we need to get people from the outside, people who are about to run businesses, people who have been successful. That would be so much more admirable than trying to pretend like you know what you're doing and ruining this country. I think that'd be so much more admirable.
Because they are ruining it, and there's no question. I mean, I don't remember a worse government in my time on this earth, and I mean, I'm sure Kelvin will say the same.
Do you see that in that polling today, just reading it on the way here, actually 64% say that Starmer should, this is 6% across the whole board, right? Say Starmer should go now.
Right.
Now, all this is being said, we've got May the 6th coming up. Yeah. That will be a big thing. Now, supposing he gets trashed in line with what convention...
What we expect,
I expect it to be worse for him, and I expect the Tories to do worse as well. Supposing that does happen, my question is, what effect do you think that would have on Starmer? Would he say, actually, taking a line from Healey, I hear you. Yeah. Or will he say, actually, I see you. Or say, I don't hear you. And actually, I'm saying, what would happen?
Well, the thing is, he's so delusional that maybe it will have no difference to him. Right. I think he's so delusional. How else do you describe him? How else do you describe the things he's doing?
Well, all of the times when he's interviewed and he says things like, well, I'm going to stay doing the job because I was elected to change this country. No, you bloody well weren't, actually. You were elected because you weren't a Tory.
To change it for the better, by the way.
But not to change it for the worse. I mean, But again, I think the Labour Party generally is a really livid organisation, and they don't, for some reason, they don't seem to be willing to push him out.
But what happens... it's a question for you two. What happens if he does go? Do you think the country will be any better?
No.
With the next person from this
probably
cabinet?
Worse. No. Probably, because if it's Angela Rayner, that's bad news. If it's Ed Miliband, even worse news. Anybody beyond those two, I don't really see. I don't know.
What about John? I see you.
Well, as you said, John Healey was thought to be this kind of relatively safe pair of hands, but he clearly now is just a complete and utter moron.
Well, you say that, but he's got, Putin scared right now.
Yeah,
Putin's sitting there saying,
running for the Urals.
He said, have you heard what Healey's saying? No. What's he saying? He says he's going to lunch.
Well, let's not forget. You probably can't find it at this short notice, but let's not forget when he was on Nick Ferrari's show a couple of weeks ago, and he was asked how many frigates have we actually got, and he didn't know. He's the Secretary of Defence,
and it's not a big number either.
No. And then when he did sort of hazard a guess, he got it wrong. And you could hear there was some guy in the background sort of handing him bits of paper. Go, here you go, John. It's just extraordinary how useless they all are.
So if you're the Prime Minister now. You are now the Prime Minister. You've got to do 3 things. Was it very difficult to even do one thing, actually, to be fair, whether you're running a business or anything? You do 3 things. What would be your 1, 2, 3, right? Starmer goes, Senator Till takes over. What would you do?
Lower taxes, control border. Number 3 I think those 2 are so...
Okay, that's fine. That's all right. Better do 2 well than 3 poorly.
They would be the first thing that I would definitely do. I want to go back to your point on wealth. I think that's such a good point. I think we've completely lost any value of how important it is to create wealth. We've been pushed down this narrative that profit is bad, business is bad. And we talk a lot about the NHS. The NHS only functions if you have a functioning economy. And I think we really have lost track of how important basic economics is. That fear of failure, that idea of growth, these kind of even the old Blairites would agree with some of this stuff.
Well, they look absolutely like business geniuses compared to this crowd. Because at least they actually did have some acumen at what they were doing. And they had some reasonably well-respected figures. I mean, whatever you say about Gordon Brown and Peter Mandelson and even Alistair Campbell, they're not particularly nice individuals, but at least they knew what they were doing, it seems to me.
Well, we now know what Mandelson was doing. Well, and actually, the thing I enjoy most about Alistair Campbell is that he's come up against the stark reality of commercial life with the fact that he said that he's had to put £500,000 into his son's
the gambling
legal
business,
obligation after his little gambling empire collapsed in
tears.
Luckily
for Campbell, though, he's making an absolute fortune in the podcast business.
I think you have to give him credit. The way he's rebranded himself. If you said after Iraq that he would have any relevance in British media, you'd be like, no chance.
No, I know.
This guy's rebranded himself into this centrist dad. He's got a podcast that millions of people listen to.
I find that quite extraordinary. I really do. I mean, the idea of him and Rory Stewart making a fortune actually makes me physically ill.
No, I don't agree with that. I agree with Sonny.
Their marketing team must be unbelievable. To do what they've done, to rebrand him.
Yeah, but it's rubbish, though.
Crazy.
It's the thing.
It's nonsense.
Right?
It's awful.
Crap.
It's awful.
Now, a couple of quick stories for you. We're talking about the borders and security. It's a piece in the mail today. UK brace for bumper summer of small boat crossings, right? Because once again, I'm afraid the old Shibata Mahmood experiment hasn't gone well. And she apparently can't persuade the French to stop them coming, even though we've now given them another 16 million, and we're probably going to give them a further several hundred million.
She's the Home Secretary.
She's useless, by the way.
No, I don't agree with that.
Well, what's she done?
No, I don't agree with that. She actually had a plan or an effort, right? It was nowhere near enough, but it was much further in than anybody else had gone. So I congratulated her on making her policy plan, right, regardless of whether it's going to work or not.
This is the paucity of expectation now. You're actually congratulating somebody for not being any good at anything.
Yeah, I am congratulating her for even saying it. Right. Because within the Labour Party, the move against that, remember this was just a policy framework, really.
Yeah.
Unbelievably, so she says it all. 2 minutes later, it's become quite clear that there is no possibility of this going through. So actually, Mahmood, who is member of Blue Labour, so she's not she's not
a mad lefty. Okay.
She's not a mad lefty.
Right.
What is the point of her staying on when you've made a big statement like that, and the next minute you find yourself undercut by a Prime Minister who clearly says, look, mate, I'm going to listen to the left, I can't listen to the right. Actually, I think she should go, and I tell you what I would do if I were her, I'd be the stalking horse. I would take a run at her.
I think
run at him.
With Shabbat Mahmood and just the Labour Party in general, I love the example of 2024, just before President Trump came into power, and it was still Biden, and they were doing the handing over. And I remember the stats in January 2024, so he was going in power later that month. It was the record drop in Mexicans crossing the border into the US. He had done no policy, he had done nothing, he wasn't even in power, Trump. But because his rhetoric was so aggressive and strong, it deterred people. So they thought, no chance.
Because they thought, we don't want to be deported because we'll never be able to go back. So we'll wait and see if we can go legally.
And so that's why the rhetoric has to be stronger. You're not talking to diplomatic British people who understand this kind of way of speaking. You are talking to people who do not care about the law. They have no. You have to be so aggressive and strong with these kind of people. Right. And I don't think, as good as Siobhan was at the start, I don't think she has it within her. I don't think anyone in that Labour cabinet has it within them to show any sign of strength. It's like somebody standing at the door of Waitrose and saying, you can't go in and steal that because it's against the law. They don't care. They get in and steal it, walk out again. Yeah. They're not going to pay any attention.
Well, not only that, in the Waitrose case, was the management are right behind the shoplifter.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right, look, just don't
ship it in.
You see that nice piece of rump steak? Don't take that. I'm taking that home as a discount later on.
I know.
But honestly, that ribeye over there, be my guest.
I know. Absolutely shocking. Sunil, great to see you. Thank you very much indeed. Stay where you are if you wish. You don't have to go anywhere. But we've got our next guest is here, who is, of course, our favourite bishop, who's from a lovely part of Wales called Pembrokeshire. Last weekend, right, this is the Bishop Dewar, Kai Dewar, who's written a letter to the King, asking him if he wouldn't mind awfully actually, pretending that he's actually the head of the Church of England as opposed to, the mosque down the road. And I think he still hasn't got an answer yet. But Bishop Dewar, welcome back to the show. Thank you very much indeed for joining us.
Good morning, Mike. It's great to be with you. I've been listening to that debate you've all been having with absolute fascination. And I'm going to throw 2 cents in, if you don't mind. All of these politicians at the moment that are currently lecturing us about the economy and all, none of them got a clue.
No.
They should come and try and live the way that I've had to, because the left have done everything they can to cancel me. I've had no income since a year ago, August. My life savings are gone, everything, right? And I'm at the moment, I'm busting a gut just to try and raise about $8,000 to get back on the road. I'm not being chauffeured around in government cars. I'm not claiming expenses. Got none of those things. And when I hear these lefty liberals and Labour lecturing people about the economy and how we're supposed to live our life, I just think you are so far removed from the party that was created that you have not got a clue. how the average person in the street is barely coping. 3 in 5 kids in Wales live below the poverty line. 2 in 5 kids in Wales are only getting fed during school times at the moment because poverty. The highest council tax rates in Wales happened in the constituency with the lowest medium income in the country.
Yeah.
This is the kind of nonsense that Labour are subjecting us to. So I hope they get absolutely trounced on May the 7th.
Yes.
And I hope, I truly, and listen, I'm partisan. I hope any bad government gets it handed to them on a platter because they deserve it. But I really hope that this is enough to force Labour to go, hang on, we got to get rid of Keir Starmer, because if he doesn't go, we're all dead in the water. And I hope that this is the beginning of the end of the uniparty system and a complete reawakening of British politics. We need a government of national unity, like Churchill had during the war, to put the best interest of the nation before everything else and see how we govern that.
Yeah, because I think we are not far away from a kind of a what I would call an existential crisis in the country. You know, not just for the things that you mentioned in Wales, because that's happening everywhere. I mean, we were talking earlier to a colleague over in Ireland, I don't know if you were able to see that, about the fuel protest there, because they're saying 60% of the cost of a litre of petrol goes to the government. Same thing here, more or less. It's about 51 or 52%. But, you know, people can't afford to go to work. They can't afford to live. They can't afford to visit their friends. They can't afford to do anything. Everything's going up in price. The MPs we saw last week gave themselves a cost of living increase in pay, 3,500, 5% they gave themselves. We're the ones paying for it. So we're paying them. They're ruining our cost of living and making it more expensive for us. And yet we're paying them to make sure that they're not suffering. It's mad.
And nobody will. Where is our Chancellor? Because the first thing I would have done with this Iran crisis and the fuel going up is slash the VAT straight away, put a pause on it.
Yeah, totally.
No, they're too busy paying everybody else outside the UK with green energy grants and foreign aid to fund a war in Ukraine and everything else under the sun to care about the average person in the street. You think of how many veterans we've got living rough, living homeless, living below the poverty line, that have died over the winter, and we're paying how many billions to house illegal immigrants in hotels? I'm sorry, I know the church shouldn't be political, but common sense must prevail at some point.
Yeah. Also, I think, at the end of the day, you don't need any lectures on the teachings of Christ and all of that, but, Christ was political, and he will be, if he was here, he would be political.
Yeah, Christ spoke truth to power, and Christ charged the church with an incredible responsibility, and that is the welfare of our own, and wherever feasible and possible, then we are to give to the strangers, the orphans, the widows, and take care of those less fortunate. But Christ tells us, the poor you'll have with you always. So it is our duty, but not at the expense of looking after people in our own communities that need our help. And sadly, this country, particularly on the left, has forgotten that.
Absolutely right. Now, last week we asked you to give us a little sermon for Easter weekend, which was very, very popular and went down terribly well with everybody. Everybody was absolutely gobsmacked by it, touched by it, moved by it. And so we've asked, if we can, to get you to give us a sermon every Friday that we can not only listen to on a Friday, but also play out on a Sunday as well. So have you got one for us today?
I have indeed. I've got it underneath the text of my letter ready for you, but I can jump straight to that.
Okay.
Because there is a video on my YouTube if anybody
Just while you're talking
to
actually about the letter, I presume the letter that you sent to the King has still had no reply, has it?
I haven't had no reply, and on Wednesday I released my sequel to the letter, which is a letter to the British public, which if anybody wants to hear it, it is there on my YouTube. Where I've recorded it. So far, it seems to be the biggest YouTube video I've managed to publish. So
well, brilliant.
Thanks be to God for that. But yes, I have a sermon.
Okay, let's go.
Friday. And you never know, we might get Kelvin to come to church after all.
It's no hope for him, I'm afraid.
Oh, I think there's hope for everybody. Today, the church continues to stand in the blazing light of Easter, not as a memory, but as a living reality. And the lectionary places before us a bold and uncompromising declaration from the Acts of the Apostles. There is no other name under heaven given among men by which we must be saved. Those are not the words of philosophers. They are not the words of men hedging their bets. They are the words of witnesses, men who had seen the risen Christ. Peter stands before the authorities, threatened, scrutinized, pressured to soften his message, and yet he does the exact opposite. He sharpens it. No other name. Not one among many, not one option among a marketplace of beliefs, but the name, Jesus Christ, crucified, risen, and reigning. And here is the question that presses itself upon us this morning. Do we actually still believe that? Because we live in an age that is deeply uncomfortable with certainty, especially religious certainty. We are told that faith should be private, that conviction should be diluted, and that truth should always be negotiable. But Easter, my brothers and sisters, does not permit that. The resurrection of Jesus Christ is not a poetic idea. It is not symbolic comfort. It is not a historical it is a historical world-altering event that demands a response. Either Christ is risen and therefore Lord of all, or he is not, and Christianity collapses entirely. There is no middle ground. And so, Peter, the apostle, standing in the wake of the resurrection, does not offer a suggestion. He makes a proclamation. No other name. Then we turn to the gospel reading for today, where we find the disciples back by the Sea of Tiberias. They have seen the risen Christ, and yet they go back to fishing. Why? Because when we don't fully grasp the resurrection life, we drift back to what is comfortable and familiar. They toil all night and they catch nothing. Now, isn't that so much a picture of what we call modern life? Endless striving, constant activity, and ultimately nothing but emptiness. That is until, just like that morning, Christ appears. He stands on the shores, unrecognized at first, and calls out to them. And with a single word of instruction, everything changes. The nets are filled. The emptiness is broken. Provision floods in. And then comes that moment. Quiet, profound, almost easily missed. Jesus said to them, "Come and eat breakfast." The risen Christ does not merely conquer death. He restores fellowship. He draws near. He feeds. He calls his people back, not just to belief, but to communion with him. This, my brothers and sisters, is the heart of Easter. Not simply that the tomb is empty, but that Christ is present. Present with his church, present with his people, present with you and I, even now. So what does this mean for us here today? It means this: you cannot build your life on anything less than Christ and expect it to hold. Not politics, not culture, not identity, not success. All of it, just like those empty nets, will leave you wanting. But in Christ, there is life. In Christ, there is forgiveness. In Christ, there is a foundation that death itself cannot shake. And so, my brothers, my sisters, the call of Easter is not vague. It is not polite, but it is abundantly clear. Turn to him. Turn to Christ. Trust in him. Build upon him. Because as the Apostle Peter boldly proclaimed, there is no other name. And as we stand in a world that is searching, restless, and often lost, perhaps more than it has been in any generation, the church must not whisper this truth, it must boldly declare it with clarity, with conviction, and with absolute love. For Christ is risen. And because he is risen, everything has changed. Christ is risen. He is risen indeed. Amen.
You are brilliant. Fantastic. Sunil Sharma's here with us. I think wants to ask you a question. Sunil.
Yeah, that was amazing, Bishop. I've got a question in terms of something you said earlier, which I've really been toying with at the moment, in particular with the left. So I wouldn't say I'm overtly religious. I would say I believe in God. I would say I'm a Hindu, and proud of that heritage or whatever. But I've seen a massive, or I've been really questioning a lot of the left at the moment. When you look at some of the behaviours, when you look at like maybe Extinction Rebellion, some of the Free Palestine movement, and I look at their behaviour, and I almost look at that as it's almost cult-like / religious type of behaviour. And it seems to me there's a massive portion of people who come from Christian faith, who maybe are becoming atheists, who are not actually acknowledging that they have these Christian values. And instead of they reject the church, and they've almost gone down a different path where some of that behaviour, I look at it as very, very religious type, with the major difference of there is no forgiveness on that side. There is no forgiveness in council culture. There's no forgiveness in if you go against climate change, or if you go against net zero, or if you go against the Free Palestine movement. Do you look at some of those people and see, not maybe opportunity is the wrong word, but I sometimes think they'd be a lot better off by just going to the church rather than going onto the streets because what they're doing is they are going to their church, well, their version of the church, which is the Free Palestine March, which is let's throw oil at a painting because we think that's virtuous, and I think they think that's more the righteous thing to do. Do you see those people as, I don't want to say misguided, but as people who could easily be churchgoers and
lost people?
Yeah, lost
maybe.
people.
Yeah.
I think everybody has it within them to find faith in Christ and become an active member of the church. And one thing we've learned through history, and particularly studying Scripture, is that when we look at the opposition to Christ, it always mirrors the activity of the church. The message of evil is the exact mirror to the message of the gospel. I use abortion as the example of that. Christ offers one life for the good of many. Abortion is the sacrificing of multiple lives, ultimately, to me, in a form of satanic worship. It's the lives of countless millions for the sake of one ideology. So every person has it within them if they surrender to a humility of letting go of pride, of ego, of delusion, and receiving Christ, as we see in the Gospels, to come into that place of being an active member of the church. I don't look at them as misguided. The Scripture tells me that they're deceived. And the problem with deception is, the problem with being deceived is you don't know you're deceived because you're living in the deception. So each one of us enters this reality, like you, Sunil, you describe yourself as a religious man, a Hindu. Each one of us enters with a longing within us, the eternal being that is separated. And it's how we find that connect to what drives our system of beliefs. And a lot of my experience, and I'm saying this as one that's been on the aggressive side of the left. As I said at the start when I first came on, I have no income now. I've never drawn a salary from the church in 30 years. I've always been bivocational. That was by choice, not by necessity. I chose not to take money from the church as a salary. And as a result of that, the left have gone after me so aggressively because of the things that I say, that now the people I used to do work for, or the clients I used to have, they're all gone. I've had no income per se for 20 months. I've had the liberal left actually try to kill me twice now First time they took 7 wheel nuts off my car at speaking at an event. You don't see that kind of aggression on the what we call the conservative right, and that's largely because even those that are not believers in Christian principle or in the Christ of Christianity on the political right are still driven by the morality of a lot of them. I'm not going to say all, but the majority of them are still driven by the morality of the Christian principles that have governed cultural and societal morality for over a millennia in the United Kingdom. And it seems to me that as people move more to the left, and I don't say this in a kind of generic way because I'm not categorizing everybody in, it's not one broad stroke of the brush to tar everybody. But there are certain elements within the left that the left drives more towards the independence of the individual, the promotion of the egotistical system of beliefs, my truth, my this, my that. Whereas the religious side, whether you're Hindu, whether you're Jewish, whether you're to some extent within moderate Islam, whether you're Sikh, the good side of that is the collective welfare aspect, which tends to me to be missing and creates a kind of new religion. I mean, it was not that long ago we had, the Richard Hawkins and the Christopher Hitchens and the new atheist of the age. We don't believe in anything, but atheism in itself is a system of beliefs. And people just don't look at it from that perspective. So I think you're very right. And whether it's a revelation of Christ or if they deny that and turn to other faiths, every single one of them could very easily become very active members of the church, depending on which way they choose to follow. For us as Christians, it is surrendering to Christ and following those teachings instead of. I'll summarize all of it because I could talk till the cows come home. I'm Welsh,
you could.
And I'm a preacher. That's what we do as a profession, right?
We should give you a show.
There's an incredible saying in Scripture, and it simply says this. It says that I should decrease, that Christ might increase, talking about me as an individual and us as a collective body. And that is the laying down of yourself, the suppressing of my personal wants, my personal desires, I want this, I'm going to do that, to what is it that Christ wants me to do? And that's always to work towards the benefit of the community. It is putting other people above my own desires, above my own wants, above, quite often in my own case, above my own needs. There's been times in the last 20 months when I've needed financial support, but out of the little that I've had, I've given to other people because that's what Christ commands me to do. And that seems to be missing very much because of the focus on the ego, and I use that in the Greek sense, the I, that is predominant in leftist politics and leftist cultural shifts.
Fascinating. We could all talk for a much longer time than we do, but we will, I'm sure, again. But Bishop Kai Dewar, brilliant to see you as ever, and thank you so much for your thoughts and for your sermon, which we will be very happy to give out to everybody today, later on, and also on Sunday as well. Bishop Dewar, fascinating man. Sunil, we are about to flip ourselves over into UK Live, are we not, Pooch?
Yeah, we can do.
Which we can do. So stay where you are if you don't mind. And Kelvin's had to go, so we haven't got him for the next part of the show. But this is what we do. For those of you who are watching for the first time, at 9:30, we're slightly later than advertised. Normally, it happens right at 9:30, is we basically push ourselves over to a new channel, which is called UK Live Online. Which is where we're going to be hosting a whole series of different shows. Indeed, maybe the Bishop can have one. You never know. We've got lots and lots of ideas for it, of course. So if you switch over